cut so we don't have to keep hearing the crying so out. We'll push it to a cracking something. All praises. All praises. Well, first and foremost, we're going to start off like we always do, and that's by giving all praises, all glory, all honor to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob through his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ. Secondly, we're going to give double honors to our elders. Our elders rule well. They're counted worthy of double honors. They get their double honors.
Right.
Lastly, finally, but not least, I want to say Shabbat Shalom, Happy Sabbath, greeting to all of my brothers and sisters out there. My name is Priest Lithiel Ben Israel.
And my name is Priest Ron Ben Israel.
And we, as you know, we are with the Holy Nation of Israel, the Straight Gate of Israel. And we're back again, another class, another topic, another lesson. But before we proceed any further, I want you out there, get your Bibles with the Apocrypha included and read along with us if you can. Also get your notebooks, pens, pencil, paper, and take notes if it is in your spirit. Lord's willing, this will be an edifying lesson that I am going to entitle Christ, Our Passover, a Sacrifice for Us, yo. And we're going to open up with 1 Corinthians 5 and 7.
The book of 1 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 7.
Read.
Purge out therefore the old leaven.
Purge out therefore the old leaven. The old leaven represents the sins of the old man. Read it again.
Purge out therefore the old leaven.
Read.
That ye may be a new lump.
That you may be a new lump or a new creature in Christ, Joe. That new lump is the new creature or the new man that is made in the image of Christ. Keep going.
As ye are unleavened.
As ye are unleavened. Read.
For even Christ our Passover.
For even Christ our Passover. Read.
Is sacrificed for us.
Is sacrificed for us. Christ our Passover is sacrificed for us. In this class, we're going to talk about Christ. We're going to talk about the Passover. We're going to talk about his sacrifice for us as the nation of Israel, as the people of Israel. Next verse.
Verse 8. Therefore let us keep the feast.
Therefore let us what?
Therefore let us keep the feast.
Therefore let us keep the feast. This right here is for you people who claim to be believers in Jesus Christ. Claim to be followers of the prophets. Claim to be followers of the apostles, especially Paul. Paul said what?
Therefore, let us keep the feast.
If you claim to be a follower of Christ, a Christian like the bro said, a follower of the apostles, a follower of Paul, you should be keeping the feast of the Lord. What particular feast is he talking about right here? The Feast of the Unleavened Bread, also known as the Passover. See, followers of Christ, the prophets, the apostles, they keep the feast. They keep the feast of the Lord. Read it again.
Therefore, let us keep the feast, not with old leaven.
Not with old leaven, read.
Neither with the leaven of malice.
Neither with the leaven of malice.
And wickedness.
Or with the leaven of wickedness, read.
But with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth.
But with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. Give me Luke 22 and 1. Luke chapter 22 and verse 1. Let's start here.
The book of Luke chapter 22 and verse 1.
Uh-huh.
Now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh.
Read.
Which is called the Passover.
Which is called the Passover. So the feast of unleavened bread is synonymous with the Passover. The Passover is synonymous with the feast of unleavened bread. Now I want to talk about the Passover and the feast of unleavened bread before we go any further. Leviticus 23. Leviticus 23, start at verse 4 for me.
The book of Leviticus chapter 23 verse 4.
Read.
These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations,
Read.
which ye shall proclaim in their seasons.
Which you shall proclaim in their seasons. In Leviticus 23, 4 on down, you read about the seasonal feast of the Lord. Feast that we keep annually. Feast that we keep yearly, yo. That's what we're about to read about. And the first feast that we're about to read about is the Passover. The Feast of Unleavened Bread. Read.
Verse 5. And the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover.
And the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover. Read.
And on the 15th day of the same month.
And on the 15th day of the same month, that month being the first month of the year. Read.
Is the feast of unleavened bread
Is the feast of unleavened bread. Read.
unto the Lord.
Unto the Lord. Unto the Lord. Read.
7 days ye must eat unleavened bread.
7 days you must eat unleavened bread. Unleavened bread, Joe. So, what is the first month? Give me that real quick in Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12, start at 1.
The book of Exodus chapter 12 and verse 1.
Read.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying,
Saying what?
This month
This month.
shall be unto you the beginning of months.
Read.
And shall be the first month of the year to you.
It shall be the first month of the year to you. Exodus chapter 13. Give me 3 and 4.
The book of Exodus chapter 13 verse 3.
Read.
And Moses said unto the people, Remember this day in which ye came out from Egypt, out of the house of bondage. For by strength of the hand of the Lord brought you out from this place.
Hey, what day did the children of Israel come out of Egypt? Out of the house of bondage. Give me that real quick in Numbers, what is it, 33 and 3? Let me get that real quick. Let me get that. Just to show you what day the children of Israel came out of Egypt. Read.
Yes. The book of Numbers chapter 33 verse 3. And they departed from Ramesses.
They departed from Ramesses. Read.
And the first month.
In the first month.
On the 15th day of the first month.
They departed from Ramesses in the first month on the 15th day of the first month. When it's saying they departed from Ramesses, that's the name of the Pharaoh and the name of the city that we departed from. We departed from there on the first month on the 15th day of that month. Read it again.
Verse 3. And they departed from Ramesses in the first month on the 15th day of the first month.
Read.
On the morrow after the Passover.
On the morrow after the Passover. Man, what comes after the Passover? The morrow after the Passover?
Feast of unleavened bread.
The Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is the 15th day of the first month. Keep going.
The children of Israel went out with a high hand in the sight of all of the Egyptians.
Let's go back to Exodus 13. Let's read 2.
The book of Exodus,
verse 3 again.
The book of Exodus chapter 13 verse 3. And Moses said unto the people, Remember this day in which ye came out from Egypt.
Remember, our people came out of Egypt in the first month on the 15th day of the month. Read.
Out of the house of bondage. By strength of the hand of the Lord brought you out from this place.
Read.
There shall no leavened bread be eaten.
Here we go.
Verse 4. This day came ye out in the month of Abib.
The month of Abib. The first month of the year was called Abib, yo. It was called Abib. I need my first folder. Let me get my first folder. First folder. Let me know when we good. All right. So this is from the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. Go over. Enlarge the screen. Abib. Read that.
Abib. An ear of corn.
The word Abib means an ear of corn. Read. The pre-exilic.
The pre-exilic name for the first month of the year.
The pre-exilic name for the first month of the year. Meaning, before the children of Israel went into the Babylonian captivity, they were calling the first month of the year Abib. Read.
After the exile.
Now, after the exile, after the Babylonian exile, read.
The name was changed to Nisan.
The name was changed to Nisan. After we came out of the Babylonian captivity, after the exile, we began to call the first month of the year Nisan. Read.
It fell about the time of our march in early April.
Hey, give me that real quick in Esther 3. You can leave that on the screen. Give me Esther chapter 3 and verse 7 to show you Nisan in the Bible being referred to as the first month of the year. After the exile, post-exile. Read that.
The book of Esther chapter 3 verse 7. And the first month, that is, the month Nisan.
The first month, that is the first month, that is Nisan. Remember, Nisan is the post-exilic name for the first month of the year. Keep going.
And the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast Pur, that is, the lot, before Haman from day to day, and from month to month, to the 12th month, that is, the month Adar.
Hey, now, go over real quick. All right, Abib. Read that.
Abib, the first month of the ancient Hebrew calendar. Corresponding to Nisan.
Corresponding to Nisan, because Abib, that is the pre-exilic name for the first month of the year. Nisan, the post-exilic name for the first month of the year. Go ahead. Hebrew calendar. Read that. I don't need the parentheses. Just read Hebrew calendar and then also.
The Hebrew calendar, also called the Jewish calendar.
So the Hebrew calendar, also called the Jewish calendar, read.
Is a lunar solar calendar.
A luni-solar calendar. Go over so we can see what a luni-solar calendar is. Luni-solar calendar. Go over. Read that.
A luni-solar calendar is a calendar in many cultures, incorporating lunar calendars and solar calendars. The date of luni-solar calendars, therefore, indicates both the moon phase and the time of the solar year. That is, the position of the sun in the earth's sky.
You can leave it right there. So the Israelite calendar, the Hebrew calendar, the calendar for the Jews is a luni-solar calendar. It is a calendar that uses both the moon phase and the position of the sun in the earth's sky to tell times, yo. That is the Jews' calendar, the Hebrew calendar, the Israelite calendar. It's a luni-solar calendar. And it says the same thing in Genesis 1. Give me that in Genesis 1. No, you good. Leave it on the screen. Genesis chapter 1. Let me see where I want to start off at. Because I know I wrote this thing. Hold on, let me see. Genesis 1, start at 14.
The book of Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. And God said that there be lights in the firmament of the heaven.
Read.
To divide the day from the night. And let them be for signs.
And let them be for signs. Here we go.
And for seasons.
And for seasons.
And for days.
And for days.
And years.
And for years. So God made lights in the heavens for the times. The lights in the heaven tell you the seasons, the days, and the years. Jump down to 16.
Verse 16. And God made two great lights. The greater light to rule the day.
That would be the sun.
And the lesser light to rule the night.
That would be the moon. Read.
He made the stars also.
So we use the sun and the moon to tell our seasons, our days, and our years. The Israelite calendar is a luni-solar calendar. It is not a solar calendar. It's not a lunar calendar. It's a luni-solar calendar. Go over real quick. Read this again.
The Hebrew calendar, also called the Jewish calendar, is a luni-solar calendar used today for Jewish religions, observance, and as an official calendar of Israel.
Read.
It determines the dates of Jewish holidays.
You can stop right there because we don't care about Caucasian rituals. It determines the dates of holidays or holy days for the Jews. Go over. The Jewish calendar. Go over. Go over. Read this.
Unlike the Gregorian silver calendar, which is based on the sun, solar.
Unlike the Gregorian calendar, which is a solar calendar, it's based on the sun. Keep going.
The Jewish calendar is based primarily on the moon.
The Jewish calendar is based primarily, not totally, not completely, but primarily on the moon. It's a lunar calendar, or a luni-solar calendar, I should say. Unlike the Gregorian calendar, which is a solar calendar, the Jews' calendar, the Israelite calendar, is a luni-solar calendar. With a luni-solar calendar, the months correlate or correspond with the moon. It's not the same with the Gregorian calendar. Go over. Read this.
Solar calendar. A solar calendar is a calendar whose dates indicate the season or almost equivalently the apparent position of the sun relative to the stars. The Gregorian calendar, widely accepted as a standard in the world, is an example of a solar calendar. The main other types of calendar are lunar calendar and luni-solar calendar.
The luni-solar calendar is the Israelite calendar, right?
Whose months correspond to cycles of moon phases.
Whose months correspond to cycles of moon phases. Like the Israelites, our months correspond or correlate with the moon, the new moon. And when I say the new moon, I'm not talking about the dark moon. I'm talking about the full moon. You know what I'm talking about? Keep going.
The months of the Gregorian calendar do not correspond to cycles of the moon phase.
Go over. Lunar month. Read this.
Lunar month. The time between one new moon and the next, one full moon and the next, etc.
That's what we keep. We keep lunar months. Lunar months, yo. And the lunar month is the time between one new moon, which is the full moon, and the next full moon. Go over. Read that too.
Lunar month. A month measured between successive new moons. Roughly 29, 1 through 2 days.
Roughly 29 and a half days. In general use, a period of 4 weeks. Go over. Enlarge this. Scroll to the top. Read month.
Month. From the time of the institution of the
Mosaic.
law downward, the month was a lunar one.
From the moment that the Mosaic law was introduced, our months became lunar ones. Lunar months, read.
The cycle of religions, feasts,
It's religious.
religious feasts, commencing with the Passover, depending not simply on the month, but on the moon.
Not only dependent on the month, but on the moon. Scroll all the way down. Scroll down. Read the yellow highlight.
Abib, in which the Passover fell.
So Abib, the Passover fell in the month of Abib, which is the first month of the year. Go over. Read this.
Passover, the first of the 3 great annual festivals of the Israelites.
The first of the 3 great annual festivals, because the Israelites had 3 great annual festivals. Passover, which is the unleavened bread. Give me Deuteronomy 16. Pentecost, which is the feast of weeks. And then we also had the tabernacles, which we know as booths. Read this, Deuteronomy 16:16.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16, verse 16. 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord thy God, and the place which he shall choose,
Which is Jerusalem, read.
and the feast of unleavened bread,
Which is the Passover, read.
and in the feast of weeks,
And in the feast of weeks, which is the Pentecost.
and in the feast of tabernacles,
And in the feast of tabernacles, the feast of booths, right?
and they shall not appear before the Lord empty.
So those are the 3 great festivals of the Israelites. Those are the 3 great festivals of the Israelites. And it started with Passover, when all men were required to appear before the Lord God, yo. All men. Hey, and our women came with us as well. Our women came with us as well. Give me that about Christ going to the Passover with his parents.
Oh, yeah.
Just to show that the sisters came as well. Because somebody might think Passover is a sausage party or something. And that's not what it is.
The book of Luke, chapter 2, and verse 41.
Read.
Now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover.
Now his parents, his father and his mother, went to Jerusalem annually, yearly, to keep the Passover. This shows you that the women came up to Jerusalem as well for these great feasts of the Israelites. Yeah? The sisters came up for Passover as well. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Let's go back to the screen. Was that in that verse?
Yes, that was it.
Let's go back to the screen. Read that again.
Passover, the first of the 3 great annual festivals of the Israelites, celebrated in the month Nisan.
Celebrated in the month of Nisan, which would be the first month of the year. Read.
March, April, from the 14th
From the 14th
to the 21st.
to the 21st. Go over. Strictly. Go over. Yeah, enlarge it and go to the top. So it says, strictly speaking. Go ahead.
Strictly speaking, the Passover only applied
To the Paschal Supper.
to the Paschal Supper.
The Paschal Supper is the Passover feast. When you sit down with the lamb, the bitter herbs, the unleavened bread. Get that real quick in Exodus 12. Exodus 12 about the Passover feast real quick. The Paschal Supper. Give me Exodus chapter 12.
Was that verse 3?
Nope. I want to start at verse... Let's read verse... Let's start at 4. No, let's start at 5 and read down real quick.
Go to Exodus chapter 12 and verse 5.
Uh-huh.
Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year.
Read.
Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. And ye shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month.
That month is the month of Bib or Nisan. Read.
And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it.
Shall what?
Shall kill it.
Shall kill it when?
In the evening.
In the evening of the 14th day of the first month. Read.
And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the 2 side posts and on the upper doorpost of the house, wherein they shall eat it.
Read.
And they shall eat the flesh in that night.
You eat the flesh that night, the night of the 14th day at the night of the 14th. Read.
Roast with fire.
You roast it with fire.
And unleavened bread.
And you eat it with unleavened bread.
And with bitter herbs.
And with bitter herbs.
They shall eat it.
This is the Paschal Supper. This is the Passover feast right here. Keep going.
Eat not of it raw.
Don't eat of it raw, for whoever that pertains to. Read.
Nor sodden at all with water.
You don't boil it. You don't soak it in water. You don't sodden at all with water. You don't boil it. You don't soak it. Read.
But roast with fire.
You roast it over open fire. Read.
His head with his legs.
With the head and the legs.
And with
the
purtenance thereof.
And the purtenance is dealing with the intestines, the heart, the liver, the lungs of the lamb, yo. Keep going.
And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning.
You don't keep leftovers. Let none of it remain until the morning. Read.
And that which remaineth of it until the morning, ye shall burn with fire.
And whatever's left over, you burn with fire. Read.
And thus shall ye eat
And
it,
this is how you eat it.
with your loins girded,
Fully dressed.
your shoes on your feet,
Shoes on your feet.
and your staff in your hand.
Staff in your hand.
And ye shall eat it in haste.
And you eat it quickly. Read.
It is the Lord's Passover.
It is the Lord's Passover. This is the Paschal Supper. This is the Passover feast show. So let's go back to the screen real quick and start at strictly speaking one more time.
Strictly speaking, the
Hold
Passover.
on. Wait till we get on the wait till we get up there. Straight. Read that.
Strictly speaking, the Passover only applied to the Paschal Supper.
Uh-huh.
And the Feast of Unleavened Bread followed.
And the feast of unleavened bread followed the next day, the 15th day. Read.
which was celebrated to the 21st.
Which was celebrated to the 21st. From the 15th to the 21st. That's 7 days. Scroll down and give me my next highlight.
Why instituted?
Why was the Passover instituted? Read.
This feast was instituted by God to commemorate the deliverance of the Israelites from Egyptian bondage.
From Egyptian bondage. When we keep the Passover, we're remembering our deliverance from Egypt. That's what we're remembering when we keep the Passover. Read.
And the sparing of their firstborn, when the destroying angel smote the firstborn of the Egyptians.
And not only are we remembering our deliverance from Egypt, we're also remembering what the Lord did to the firstborns of the Egyptians. How he murdered them for us. How he killed them for us. Go down. Read that highlight.
It was the yearly memorial.
It is a yearly memorial. This is something we do annually. Read.
Of the dedication of the people to him who had saved their firstborn from the destroyer.
So not only are we remembering our deliverance and God destroying our enemies, killing their firstborns, but we're also remembering the salvation that he had for us and the fact that he saved our firstborns from that same destroyer. Read.
In order that they might be made holy to himself.
All right, cool. Go over. Anything else?
Yes.
Read this.
Feast were the sacred festivals of Judaism.
Judaism is not talking about modern Judaism. It's talking about ancient Judaism. Ancient Judaism was the study and practice of keeping God's commandments, God's laws, which would include holy days. Now, modern Judaism is all about the Talmud. That has nothing to do with God. But read it again.
Feasts were the sacred festivals of Judaism, which were occasions of public worship.
Read.
There were 7 in all.
There were 7 in all. And you read about the 7 feasts of the Lord in Leviticus 23. Read.
The Passover,
The Passover,
or Feast of Unleavened
which
Bread,
is synonymous with the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Read.
was established before the giving of the law to celebrate the exodus from Egypt. It began on the 14th day of Nisan.
It began on the 14th day of Nisan. We started turning up the 14th day of Nisan. Read.
And continued for a week.
And continued for a week through the 21st. Read.
Leviticus 23, verse 5 and 8. Attendance was required of all male Jews.
That's what we just read in Deuteronomy 16:16. All men were required to appear before the Lord God in the place that he chose on those 3 major feasts. Great feasts. Anything else? Go over?
We good.
That was it? All right, all praises. Let's go back to the book of Leviticus chapter 23. I want Leviticus chapter 23, and I need verse... Let's get verse 5.
Book of Leviticus chapter 23, verse 5.
Uh-huh.
And the 14th day of the first month at evening.
At evening. What is evening? Give me that real quick in Proverbs chapter 7.
Yes.
What is evening?
The book of Proverbs chapter 7 and verse 9.
Uh-huh.
In the twilight.
In the twilight.
In the evening.
In the evening. Let's see what the evening is. Read.
In the black.
In the black.
And dark night.
In the black and dark night. The evening is the black and dark night, yo. That is the evening. Now, when does the evening begin? Mark chapter 1, verse 32. When does the evening begin?
The book of Mark chapter 1 and verse 32.
Read.
And at evening,
Uh-huh.
while the sun did set.
Read that again.
And at evening,
Uh-huh.
when the sun did set.
Evening begins at sunset. Evening begins at sundown. That's when evening begins, so read it again.
And at even,
Uh-huh.
when the sun did set,
Read.
they brought unto him all that were diseased, and them that were possessed with devils.
Let's go back to Leviticus 23 and 5 again.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 23 and verse 5.
Uh-huh.
And the 14th day of the first month at even.
In the 14th day of the first month at even. Even begins at sunset, at sundown. Even is the black and dark night. Read it one more time.
And the 14th day of the first month at even
Read.
is the Lord's Passover.
That's when the Lord's Passover takes place. It takes place the evening of the 14th day of the first month. That's when the Passover takes place. Keep going.
Verse 6.
Uh-huh.
And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread.
And on the 15th day of the same month, which is the first month of the year, is the feast of unleavened bread. Read.
Unto the Lord.
Hey, give me my second folder. I just thought about something. I need to read that again. Put that on the screen. Enlarge this. Make it large. Yeah. Huh?
More large, some more.
No. Hold on. Does it look good? We look good on the screen? All right. I want y'all to take a look real quick. As you can see, go to the full moon, February 24th. February 24th, this is the night that we turned up to keep the new moon. Now you see, Sunday, February 21st, 25th, that would be the first day of the new year, yo. This was the first day of the month. This was the first day of Abib, the first day of Nisan right here. So when you count 1, 2, 3, 4, go all the way over to 14 for me. As you can see, the 14th day, Saturday, this evening will be the Passover, yo. The Passover. And then what comes after the evening of the 14th? The 15th day. Which would be what? The first day of unleavened bread. Hey, leave this on the screen. Read 5 and 6 again.
All right. The book of Leviticus, chapter 23 and verse 5.
Uh-huh.
And the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover.
Hey, put the cursor back on the 14th day even. This right here will be the day or the evening of the Lord's Passover. Read.
Verse 6. And on the 15th day,
And on the 15th day, move the cursor to the 15th day. The 15th day comes right after the evening of the 14th day, man. The 15th day, read it again.
and on the 15th day of the same month
Uh-huh.
is the feast of unleavened bread
It's the feast of unleavened bread, read.
unto the Lord.
Uh-huh.
7 days ye must eat unleavened bread.
7 days you eat unleavened bread. So that's from the 15th through the 21st, yo. From the 15th through the 21st. That is 7 days. Keep reading for me.
Verse 7. And the first day ye shall have an holy convocation.
The first day, which is the 15th day of the first month, that day is a Sabbath. It is a day of assembly, a holy convocation. Read.
Ye shall do no servile work therein,
Because it's a Sabbath. Read.
but ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord 7 days.
Read.
And the 7th day is an holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein.
The 7th day, which would be the 21st day of the first month of the year, that day is also a Sabbath. A day where we do no servile work. Read.
Verse 8. Verse 9, Salaki. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying,
Saying what?
Speak unto the children of Israel,
Uh-huh.
and say unto them,
Say what?
when ye be come into the land which I give unto you,
Uh-huh.
and shall reap the harvest thereof,
Read.
then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest.
Then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest. What is this going into? The sheaf offering. The sheaf offering. Keep reading.
Verse 11. And he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord, to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it.
Now on the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. Circle the cursor under the 15th. No, 15, go to the 15th. 15th, now go to the 16th. This is the day of the sheaf offering right here. Hey, X out of here. Go back. Give me third folder. Click that. Enlarge this real quick. Scroll down. You see where it says on the morrow after the Sabbath? You see after Leviticus 23 and 39?
Yes.
Read is not the weekly Sabbath. Start there.
Is not the weekly Sabbath, but the next day, or the first day of the holy convocation, the first day of Passover, on which the Israelites had to abstain from all unnecessary work. It is the 16th of Nisan.
We stop right there. This, talking about the sheaf offering, fell on the 16th of Nisan, or the 16th of Abib, which would be the day after the first day of unleavened bread. Go over. Enlarge this. Is this the same one? Go down.
Yeah,
The same one? Go over. Enlarge this one. Scroll up. Let me see. No, go down a little bit. Let me see here where I want. Go down. Here we go. The morrow after the Sabbath. Read that.
The morrow after the Sabbath, after the first day of the feast of unleavened bread,
The first day of the feast of unleavened bread, which would be the 15th day of the first month. Read.
which was a Sabbath,
Which was and is a Sabbath. Read.
or day of rest,
Uh-huh.
as appears from Leviticus 23 and verse 7.
Read.
Or upon the 16th day of the month.
Or upon the 16th day of the month. This is when we did the sheaf offering. It was on the morrow after the Sabbath, the 16th day of the month. Go over. We'll read one more. I don't need to read too many more. Scroll down. Let me see here. Okay, start up at the offering described. Right there.
The offering described is this passage was made on the 16th of the first month, the day following the first Passover Sabbath, which was on the 15th, corresponding to the beginning of our April.
All praises. That's it. Go over. Let me see. What else I got up here? Go over. No, I'm good. All right. That's good enough. Go ahead. Over. So yeah, circle the 15th one more time. That'll be the first day of unleavened bread. The 16th, that'll be the day of the sheaf offering. Is there anything else?
We good.
That's it?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, from there, let's go to, we read 9 through 11. Let's go to the book of John, chapter 11 and verse 55. Let's get into talking about Christ and the Passover.
The book of St. John, chapter 11 and verse 55. And the Jews' Passover was nigh at hand. So and many went out of the country up to Jerusalem.
Many of the Jews went out of the country to Jerusalem. Read.
Before the Passover.
Before Passover, why?
To purify themselves.
To purify themselves. Read.
Then sought they for Jesus.
And then, when they got there, they started to look for Jesus. They were seeking Christ. Read.
And spake among themselves.
And they began to speak among themselves about Jesus, about the Christ. Read.
As they stood in the temple. What think ye? That he will not come to the feast?
And they were asking themselves concerning Christ, is he going to come to the feast? Is he going to show up to the Passover? Read.
Now both the chief priests and the Pharisees had given a commandment that if any man know where he were,
If any man knew where he were,
he should show it.
he should show it,
that they might take
that
him.
they might take him. Remember, the chief priests and the Pharisees, they wanted to kill the Christ. They wanted to kill that man. Jump up to verse 47.
Verse 47. And then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees at council and said, what do we? For this man doeth many miracles.
For this man doeth many miracles. Christ was doing many miracles. Many of them, including the resurrection of Lazarus, which you read about before this taking place. You read about Christ resurrecting Lazarus before this took place. Matter of fact, this ain't in the class, but I'm going to read it anyway. Jump up chapter 11 and give me verse 41.
The book of St. John, chapter 11 and verse 41.
No, I want to start at 41. No, just get to the point. Read 43.
All right, verse 43. And when he thus had spoken,
Talking about Christ, read.
he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth.
Christ called Lazarus out of the grave. Remember, Lazarus had been in the grave 4 days already by this time. 4 days already by this time. Let's jump up and get that where it says he was in the grave 4 days. Give me that verse 17.
All right. Verse 17. Then when Jesus came, he found that he had lain in the grave 4 days already.
So he was already in the grave 4 days. Jump over to verse 38.
Verse 38. Jesus therefore, again, groaning in himself, cometh to the grave. It was a cave.
So Lazarus, his grave was a cave. And he was outside of his hometown of Bethany. But keep going.
And a stone lay upon it. Jesus said, take ye away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead.
See, Lazarus had two sisters. He had one named Martha and one named Mary. He had two sisters. But keep going.
Saith unto him, Lord, by this time he stinketh.
By this time he stinks. His body has begun to decay. Decompose. Read.
For he had been dead 4 days.
Because he was dead 4 days already before Christ got to the grave or the cave. Read.
Jesus saith unto her, said I not unto thee,
Uh-huh.
that if thou wouldest believe, thou shouldest see the glory of God.
Keep going.
Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid.
Where Lazarus was. Read.
And Jesus lifted up his eyes and
He
said,
said what?
Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me.
Uh-huh.
And I knew that thou hearest me always.
Read.
But because of the people which stand by I, said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me.
Uh-huh.
Verse 43. And when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth.
Read.
And he that was dead
Talking about Lazarus.
came forth,
He came forth. Read.
bound hand and foot with grave clothes.
Keep going.
And his face was bound about with a napkin. Jesus saith unto them, loose him and let him go.
You got to think about the power that Christ just displayed there, man. You got to think about the power he just displayed there. He resurrected this man after he was laying in the grave 4 days. Body decomposing and everything. And the Lord brought it all back. Spirit and body. That is heavy. Keep going.
Verse 45. Then many of the Jews which came to Mary
Uh-huh.
and had seen the things which Jesus did, believed on him.
So many of the Jews, when they saw what Christ had done, they believed on him.
But some of them went their ways to the Pharisees
But some of the Jews, they went their ways to the Pharisees. Read.
and told them what things Jesus had
And
done.
they began to tell they began to tell the Pharisees about the many miracles that he had done, including Lazarus in that resurrection. Keep going.
Then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council and said,
What'd they say?
What do we? For this man doeth many miracles.
Keep going.
If we let him thus alone,
If we leave him alone, read.
all men will believe on him.
All men will believe on him.
And the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation.
And the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation. From this day forward, the scribes, the Pharisees, the chief priests, they got together to counsel about killing the Christ. Jump over to verse 53.
Verse 53. Then from that day forth they took counsel together for to put him to death.
From that day forth, they took counsel together to kill the Christ. And not only did they want to kill the Christ, they also wanted to kill Lazarus. They also wanted to put Lazarus to death. Real talk. Why? Let's go to chapter 12. Let's read 9 and 10. Oh, excuse me. Let's read 10 and 11.
The book of St. John, chapter 12 and verse 10.
Read.
But the chief priests consulted that they might put Lazarus also to death.
So not only did the chief priests consult to kill the Christ, they also consulted to kill Lazarus. Why? Next verse.
Because that by reason of him,
Because that by reason of him talking about Lazarus and what happened, that resurrection, read.
many of the Jews went away
Many of the Jews went away
and believed on Jesus.
and believed on Jesus. This is why they wanted to kill Lazarus as well, man. Not only did they want to kill Christ, they wanted to kill Lazarus as well. Chapter 12, stay in the same chapter, jump into verse 1.
The book of St. John, chapter 12, verse 1.
Uh-huh.
Then Jesus, 6 days before the Passover,
So this is 6 days before the Passover, read.
came to Bethany.
So Christ came to Bethany 6 days before the Passover, or he entered the town of Bethany 6 days before the Passover. Now, when you look up Bethany, there's 2 cities of Bethany in the country. You have Bethany near Jordan. That was a town or a city that was close to where John the Baptist was baptizing. But you also have Bethany near Jerusalem. This is where Christ is right now. He's in Bethany near Jerusalem, yo. This is the same city that Lazarus, Martha, and Mary lived in as well. Jump over to chapter 11 and verse 1.
Book of St. John, chapter 11 and verse 1.
Read.
Now a certain man was sick, named Lazarus,
Uh-huh.
of Bethany,
Of Bethany. See, Lazarus lived in Bethany. Read.
the town of Mary and his sister Martha.
And his sisters, Mary and Martha, lived there as well. And this Bethany is Bethany near to Jerusalem. Jump down to verse 18.
Verse 18. Now Bethany was nigh unto Jerusalem,
Read.
about 15 furlongs off.
About 15 furlongs off, or about 2 miles outside of Jerusalem. Bethany was about 2 miles outside of Jerusalem. This is the city or the town that Christ entered into 6 days before the Passover. Read chapter 12 and 1 again.
Book of St. John, chapter 12, verse 1. Then Jesus, 6 days before the Passover, came to Bethany,
Read.
where Lazarus was, which had been dead, whom he raised from the dead.
Whom he raised from the dead. Read.
There they made him a supper.
There they made him a supper. Now this supper right here is taking place 2 days before the Passover. The supper is taking place in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, yo. And it's taking place 2 days before the Passover. And I'm going to show you that as well. Read that again.
There they made him a supper, and Martha served. But Lazarus was one of them that sat at the table with him.
But Lazarus was one that sat at the table with him. Jump down to verse 9.
Verse 9. Much people of the Jews therefore knew that he was there.
They knew Christ was there. Read.
And they came not for Jesus' sake only,
And they didn't come just to see the Christ. Read.
but that they might see Lazarus also,
But they also came to see Lazarus. Read.
whom he had raised from the dead.
Whom the Christ had raised from the dead. Whom he had raised from the dead. Jump down to verse 12.
Verse 12. On the next day, much people that were come to the feast, when they heard that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem, took branches of palm trees, and went forth to meet him, and cried, Hosanna! Blessed is the King of Israel,
Blessed is the King of Israel,
that cometh in the name of the Lord.
that cometh in the name of the Lord. Verse 17.
Verse 17. The people therefore that was with him, when he called Lazarus out of his grave.
Now you also had people there who witnessed the resurrection of Lazarus. Let's see what they did. Read.
And raised him from the dead, bear record.
They went around bearing record about Christ and how he raised Lazarus from the dead. Joe, keep going.
For this cause the people also met him.
And because of that, more people wanted to meet Christ. Man, more people wanted to meet him. Read.
For that they heard that he had done this miracle.
That miracle concerning Lazarus and the resurrection. Read.
The Pharisees therefore said among themselves,
What they say?
Perceive ye how ye prevail nothing.
He said, perceive ye how you prevail nothing. We've been trying to trap him up and kill him, and ain't nobody prevailed in nothing. Read.
Behold, the world is gone after him.
And now the world is gone after him. And when it's talking about the world, it's talking about the Jews, yo. It's talking about the Jews. It's talking about the Israelites. Give me John 18:20 about the world being a Jew.
Book of St. John, chapter 18, verse 20. Jesus answered him, I speak openly to the world.
Here we go.
I ever taught in the synagogue and in the temple, whither the Jews always resort.
Keep going.
And in secret have I said nothing.
That's the world. The world is of the Jews. So when he said the world is gone after him, it's talking about the Jews. It's talking about the Israelites, yo. Talking about the Israelites. All right, all praises. Hey, let's go from there. Give me Luke chapter 22 and verse 1. And everybody and anybody feel free if you got anything to add.
Book of Luke, chapter 22, verse 1. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, which is called the Passover.
Which is called the Passover. The Passover and unleavened bread are synonymous. Read.
And the chief priests and scribes saw how they might kill him.
And they sought how they might kill him. They were trying to figure out a way to kill the Christ man. They couldn't just come out and just assassinate him. So they had to figure out a way to kill him. Read.
For they feared the people.
And they feared the people. That's why they couldn't come out and just assassinate the Christ. Because they feared the people. Now, this is taking place 2 days before the Passover. Give me the book of Matthew chapter 26. I want to start at 1 and read down.
The book of Matthew, chapter 26, and verse 1.
Read.
And it came to pass, when Jesus had finished all these sayings.
When Christ had finished all these sayings are about the end of this world, Joe. These sayings are from Matthew 24 through 25. These sayings are about the end of this world and the return of the Lord, Joe. That's what these sayings are about. Read it again.
And it came to pass, when Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said unto his disciples,
What did he say?
Ye know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover.
You know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover. So the Passover was 2 days away from here. Read.
And the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified.
And the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified. Read.
Then assembled together the chief priests and the scribes and the elders of the people unto the palace of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas.
Read.
And consulted that they might take Jesus by subtlety.
They wanted to arrest the Christ secretly, yo. Read.
And kill him.
And they wanted to kill him. Read.
But they said, not on the feast
But
day.
they said not on the feast day. Why?
Lest there be an uproar among the people.
They feared the people. They feared the uproar of the people. But keep going.
Now when Jesus was in Bethany,
Now when Jesus was in Bethany, read.
in the house of Simon the leper,
In the house of Simon the leper. He was in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper. This is 2 days before the Passover, read.
there came unto him a woman having
Alabaster box.
alabaster box of very precious ointment, and poured it on his head as he sat at meat.
What was he doing in the house of Simon the leper? Eating. Eating. This is that supper that we just read about in John. Was it John?
Yes.
This is the supper we just read about in John chapter 12, right?
Yeah, John chapter 12.
Same supper right here. He's eating. And the woman who had this precious ointment and poured it on his body, this woman, her name is Mary. Yo. I'm going to show you that later in the class. Her name is Mary. This is the sister of Martha and Lazarus that did this right here. I'm going to show you that later, but keep going.
Verse 8. But when his disciples saw it, they had indignation, saying,
Read.
To what purpose is this waste?
Uh-huh.
For this ointment might have been sold for much and given to the poor.
Read.
When Jesus understood it, he said unto them,
What did he say?
Why trouble ye the woman? For she hath wrought a good work upon me.
Read.
For ye have the poor always with you, but me ye have not always.
Keep going.
For in that she hath poured this ointment on my body.
Notice what Christ said. He said she poured this ointment on my body. She didn't just pour the ointment on his head. She also poured it on his feet, yo. And I'll show you that as well. But keep going.
She did it for my burial.
And this was done for his burial. Read.
Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached in the whole world,
Wherever we preach this gospel throughout the whole world, read.
there shall also this, that this woman hath done, be told for a memorial of her.
We always make mention of what this woman did. We always make mention of what Mary did for a memorial for her, yo. Real talk. Keep going.
Then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went unto the chief priest.
Then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went unto the chief priest. The chief priest didn't come to him. He went to them. And you know why? Satan. Satan led his ass to those chief priests. Give me that real quick about Satan leading him in Luke 22 and 3.
So he took that 2-mile walk.
Yeah, he took that 2-mile walk. You damn right. And Satan was right in front of him. You know what I mean? Read this real quick.
So he had time to turn around and everything.
The book of Luke, chapter 22, verse 3.
That's the right one?
Yes.
All right, bring it up.
Then entered Satan into Judas, surname Iscariot,
Then entered Satan into Judas Iscariot, read.
being of the number of the 12.
Being of the number of the 12.
And he went his way and communed with the chief priests and captains, how he might betray him unto them.
How he could betray him unto them. Satan. Judas Iscariot was following Satan, man. For real. Go back. Matthew 26 again, verse 14.
The book of Matthew, chapter 26 and verse 14. Then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went unto the chief priests and said unto them, What will ye give me?
What will you give me? Read.
And I will deliver him unto you.
And I'll deliver you the Christ. Read.
And they covenanted with him for 30 pieces of silver.
And they agreed to pay him 30 pieces of silver, yo. They agreed to give him 30 pieces of silver to betray the Christ. Read.
And from that time, he sought opportunity to betray him.
And from that time on, Judas Iscariot was looking for the perfect time to betray his Lord and Master, yo. From that time on. Keep going.
Verse 17. Now the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying unto him, Where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover?
It says now the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. This day right here is the 14th day of the first month of the year. Real talk. That's what day this is. He said, Where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover? Read.
And he said
to two of his disciples, read.
Go into the city to such a man, and say unto him, The Master saith, My time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at thy house.
Christ said, I will keep the Passover at thy house. Read.
With my disciples.
With my disciples. Read.
And the disciples did as Jesus had appointed them.
And those two disciples did as they were appointed. Read.
And they made ready the Passover.
Give me Mark chapter 14. Mark chapter 14, let's start at 1.
The book of Mark chapter 14 and verse 1. After 2 days was the feast of the Passover and of unleavened bread.
Read.
And the chief priests and the scribes sought how they might take him by craft.
They sought how they might take him by craft. They wanted to take him craftily. They were using subtlety. They wanted to arrest him secretly. Read.
And put him to death.
And kill him. Read.
But they said, not on the feast day.
But they said, not on the feast day. Read.
Lest there be an uproar of the people.
Because they feared the people. They feared the uproar, the revolt of the people. Read.
And being in Bethany.
And being in Bethany.
And the house of Simon the leper.
In the house of Simon the leper. Read.
As he sat at meat.
As he sat at meat. He was in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper when they made him that supper, yo. That's where they made him that supper. But keep going.
There came a woman having an alabaster box of ointment of spikenard, very precious.
Spikenard.
Spikenard. So like I said, spikenard.
Spikenard, very precious. Read.
A spikenard, very precious. And she brake the box and poured it on his head.
And she brake the box and poured it on his head. Hey, I told y'all this woman was Mary, but let's prove it real quick. Give me the book of John, chapter 11, 1 and 2.
Book of St. John, chapter 11, and verse 1. Now a certain man was sick, named Lazarus, of Bethany, the town of Mary, and her sister Martha. It was that Mary which anointed the Lord with ointment, and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick.
Chapter 12, read 1 on down.
The book of John, chapter 12, verse 1. Then Jesus, 6 days before the Passover, came to Bethany.
Christ entered Bethany 6 days before the Passover. Read.
Where Lazarus was, which had been dead, whom he raised from the dead. Verse 2. There they made him a supper.
This supper was made in the house of Simon the leper. Keep going.
And Martha served.
And Martha, Mary's sister, Lazarus' sister, she served at this supper. Read.
But Lazarus was one of them that sat at the table with him.
And Lazarus was at the table with the Christ. Read.
Then took Mary a pound of ointment.
A pound of ointment.
Of spikenard.
Of spikenard. The woman who had the precious ointment, the spikenard, that was Mary, man. That was Mary, the sister of Martha and Lazarus. Keep reading again.
Then took Mary a pound of ointment of spikenard, very costly.
Very costly.
And anointed the feet of Jesus.
She anointed the feet of Jesus. But she also anointed his head too. Read.
And wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the odor of the ointment.
Read.
Then saith one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, which shall betray him.
After this, then said Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, which should betray him. Read.
Why was not this ointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor?
He was the ringleader of the whole thing when it came down to the disciples. He said, why wasn't this sold for 300 pence and given to the poor? Read.
This he said, not that he cared for the poor.
He wasn't saying this because he gave a damn about the poor. Read.
But because he was a thief.
He was saying it because he was a thief. Read.
And had a bag.
And he had the bag. Hey, black people, you know what the bag is. Judas Iscariot is the one that had it. He had the bag. Read.
And bare what was put therein.
And he had all the contents of the bag, which we know as money. Money was in the bag. And other valuable commodities and items were in the bag. Hey, let's go back to the book of Mark chapter 14. Let's read verse 3 again and read down.
Book of Mark chapter 14 verse 3. And being in Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at meat.
Read.
There came a woman having an alabaster box of ointment, of spikenard, very precious.
This woman is Mary. Read.
And she brake the box and poured it on his head.
And she anointed his head. Read.
And there was some that had indignation,
starting with Judas Iscariot,
within themselves, and saying, why was this waste of the ointment made?
Read.
For it might have been sold for more than 300 pence.
Same thing Judas Iscariot just said over there. The same thing we just read about Judas Iscariot in John chapter 13. Same thing. Keep reading. And that's how you know it's the same story. That's how you know it's the same story. For those who didn't pick it up yet. But keep going.
And had been given to the poor. And they murmured against her. And Jesus said, let her alone. Why trouble ye her?
Why you troubling Mary? Read.
She hath wrought a good work on me.
Read.
For ye have the poor with you always.
We always have the poor with us. Read.
And whensoever ye will, ye may do them good.
And whenever you will, you can do good to the poor. For the poor. Read.
But me ye have not always.
Keep going.
Verse 8. She have done what she could.
She did what she could.
She has come aforehand to anoint my body to the burying. Verse 9. Verily I say unto you,
Read.
wheresoever this gospel shall be preached throughout the whole world. This also that she have done shall be spoken of for a memorial of her.
Keep going.
And Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went unto the chief priests to betray him.
Right after this event, that's when Judas Iscariot went to the chief priests and the elders to betray the Christ. Keep reading.
Verse 11. And when they heard it.
And when they heard that one of the 12 apostles, Judas, surnamed Iscariot, was coming to betray Jesus the Christ. When they heard that right there, read.
And when they heard it, they were glad.
They were happy as hell, read.
And promised to give him money.
And they promised to give him money. Remember, they covenanted with him for 30 pieces of silver. Read.
And he had sought how he might covenantly betray him.
And from that moment on, he sought how he might conveniently betray him. Betray the Christ. Read.
Verse 12. And the first day of unleavened bread, when they killed the Passover.
Now the first day of unleavened bread, when they killed the Passover. Once again, this is the 14th day of the first month of the year. And you might say, well, how do you know that? Well, we know that because it says, in the first day of unleavened bread, when they killed the Passover. What is the Passover that we killed? The lamb. Give me that real quick in Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12, and I want to start at verse 21.
Look at Exodus chapter 12 and verse 21. And then Moses called for all the elders of Israel. He said unto them,
what did he say?
Draw out and take you a lamb according to your families. And kill.
And do what?
And kill the Passover.
And kill the Passover. The lamb is the Passover, man. He said, kill the Passover. When did we kill the Passover? Jump back up. We read it earlier. But jump back up, read 5 and 6 again.
Verse 5. Your lamb shall be without blemish.
Your lamb, talking about your Passover lamb, shall be without blemish. Read.
A male of the first year.
A male of the first year.
You shall take it out from the sheep.
You can take it out from the sheep.
Or from the goat.
Or from the goat. Read.
And you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month.
And you keep it up until the 14th day of the first month of the year. Read.
And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it.
Shall kill it, talking about the Passover. You kill the Passover when?
In the evening.
In the evening of the 14th. In the evening of the 14th. This is how you know when you go back to Mark chapter 14. Read verse 12 again.
Book of Mark chapter 14 and verse 12. And the first day of unleavened bread, when they killed the Passover.
The Passover is killed on the 14th. It's killed the evening of the 14th, yo. That's how we know this is the 14th day of the first month of the year. That's how we know that. Read it again.
And the first day of unleavened bread, when they killed the Passover.
Read.
His disciples said to him, What wilt thou that we go and prepare, that thou mayest eat the Passover?
That thou, Lord, mayest eat the Passover. Why people try to tell us that the Lord didn't eat the Passover? It just doesn't. Stop listening to Edom, yo. Stop listening to Edom. The wicked will never understand. Keep going.
Verse 13. And he sendeth forth 2 of his disciples.
He sent forth 2 of his disciples. The 2 disciples he sent forth were Peter and John. Those are the 2 disciples he sent forth. And of course, I'm going to show you that as we keep going. Keep going.
And saith unto them, Go ye into the city, and there shall meet you a man bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him.
Follow that man. Read.
And wheresoever he shall go in, say ye to the good man of the house, The master saith.
The master saith what?
Where is the guest chamber? Where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples.
Christ said, where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples, man. He just told you he ate the Passover. Or he was going to eat the Passover, I should say. Keep reading.
Verse 15. And he will show you a large upper room, furnished and prepared. There make ready for us.
Give me Luke 22 again. Luke 22 started 1. You got something, bro?
And just go back to what you said initially. Christ kept the laws, going into, the ceremonial laws.
Yep.
Feast days. Being one of them, Passover.
Yep. Christ kept the commandments, yo. Real talk. Give me Luke 22 and 1.
The book of Luke, chapter 22, verse 1. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh.
Just read it again.
And now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, Salakim, which is called the Passover.
Keep going.
And the chief priests and scribes sought how they might kill him, for they feared the people.
Uh-huh.
Then entered Satan into Judas, surnamed Iscariot, being of the number of the 12.
Read.
And he went his way, and communed with the chief priests and captains, how he might betray him unto them.
How he might betray the Christ. Read.
And they were glad.
They were glad.
And
Covenanted.
to give him money.
And they covenanted 30 pieces of silver. 30 pieces of silver. Read.
And he promised and sought opportunity to betray him unto them in the absence of the multitude.
And he sought opportunity to betray Christ, but in the absence of the people. In the absence of the multitude of the people. Why? Because they feared the people. They feared uproar, revolt, and rebellion from the people. Keep going.
Then came the day of unleavened bread.
Then came the day of unleavened bread.
When the Passover must be killed.
This is the 14th day of the first month of the year. Yo, that's what day this is. Read.
And he sent Peter and John, saying,
Saying what?
Go and prepare us the Passover.
Go and prepare the Passover. He sent Peter and John. These were his two disciples that he sent. He sent Peter and John saying, go and prepare for us the Passover. Read.
That we may eat.
That we may eat. Damn. Just keep going, yo. Keep going.
And they said unto him, Where wilt thou that be prepared?
Read.
And he said unto them, Behold, when ye are entered into the city, there shall a man meet you, bearing a pitcher of water.
Read.
Follow him into the house where he entereth in. And he shall say unto the good man of the house, The master saith unto thee, Where is the guest chamber, where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples?
Where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples. Read.
And he shall show you a large upper room, furnished, there make ready.
Keep going.
And they went and found as he had said unto them. And they made ready the Passover. And when the hour was come, he sat down, and the 12 apostles with him.
And when the hour was come, he sat down, and his 12 were with him. Read.
And he said unto them, With desire, I have desired to eat the Passover with you before I suffer.
He said, I desire to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. Yo, read.
Verse 16. For I say unto you, I will not any more eat thereof until it be fulfilled in the kingdom of God.
Now, why did he say this? Because he knew he was about to be betrayed and put to death. That's why he said that. Right there. Jump over to verse 21.
Verse 21. But behold, the hand of him that betrayeth me is with me on the table.
This is what Christ knew. He knew that he was about to be betrayed, Joe, into the hand of his enemies, to be put to death. Read that again.
But behold, the hand of him that betrayeth me is with me on the table.
Give me John 13:18 real quick. St. John 13:18.
St. John chapter 13 and verse 18.
Why was that man's hand with Christ at the table? Read this.
Speak not of you all.
He said, I speak not of you all. Read.
I know whom I have chosen.
I know who I chose. Read.
But that the scripture may be fulfilled. He that eateth bread with me.
He that eateth bread with me.
Hath lifted up his heel against me.
Have lifted up his heel against me. Get that in Psalm 41 and 9. Psalm 41 and 9. He said, the man that eats bread with me has lifted up his heel against me. Read that.
Psalm chapter 41 verse 9.
Psalm of David, matter of fact. Read that caption.
All right. The chief musician, a psalm of David.
So this is a Psalm of David. Jump down to 9.
Verse 9. Yea, mine own familiar friend.
Damn. Yea, my own familiar. My own familiar friend. Read.
In whom I trusted.
In whom I trusted. Read.
Which did eat of my bread.
Which did eat of my bread. Read.
Have lifted up his heel against me.
Have lifted up his heel against me. That was fulfilled in Christ with Judas Iscariot, yo. With Judas Iscariot. Hey, go to the book of Mark chapter, Matthew 26 and 19. Matthew 26 and 19.
Matthew chapter 26 and verse 19. And the disciples did as Jesus had appointed them. And they made ready the Passover.
And they made ready the Passover. Read.
Now when the even was come.
Now when the even was come. This is the even of the 14th day of the first month. Read again.
Now when the even was come, he sat down with the 12. And as they did eat.
As they did eat. As they ate what? The Passover. As they ate the Passover, yo, that Paschal supper. The lamb, the unleavened bread, the bitter herbs. As they did eat, read.
He said,
what did he say?
Really I say unto you, that one of you shall betray me.
He said, one of you shall betray me, read.
And they were exceeding sorrowful, And began every one of them to say unto him, Lord, is it I?
Is it I? Read.
And he answered and said, He that dippeth his hand with me in the dish, the same shall betray me.
Keep going.
The Son of Man goeth as it is written of him. But woe unto them, that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed.
But woe unto that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. Read.
It had been good for that man if he had not been born.
He should have never been born. Read.
Then Judas, which betrayed him, answered and said,
What did he say?
Master, is it I?
Judas, he said, Master, is it me? Read.
He said unto him,
What did he say?
Thou hast said.
He said, you said it. You said it. Give me Mark chapter 14. Give me Mark chapter 14, 16.
So what is old saying, hit dogs holler?
A hit dog will holler. Real talk. Read this real quick. Mark 14, 16.
The book of Matthew chapter 14, verse 16.
No, Mark.
Yeah, Mark.
The book of Mark chapter 14 and verse 16.
Read.
And his disciples went forth and came into the city, and found as he had said unto them. And they made ready the Passover.
Read.
And in the evening,
And in the evening, this is the evening of the 14th day of the first month. Read.
he cometh with the 12.
He came with the 12. Read.
And as they sat and did eat,
And as they sat and did eat, what were they eating? The Passover. Read.
Jesus said,
What did he say?
Verily I say unto you, one of you which eateth with me shall betray me.
One of you are going to betray me. Read.
And they began to be sorrowful, and to say unto him, one by one, Is it I?
Is it me?
And another said, Is it I?
Is it me?
And he answered and said unto them, It is one of the 12
It's one of my 12. Read.
that dippeth with me in the dish.
That dips with me in the dish. Read.
The Son of Man indeed goeth, as it is written of him.
Uh-huh.
But woe to them, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed.
Read.
Good were it for that man if he had never been born.
It'd have been better for that man to have never been born. Read.
And as they did eat,
And as they did eat,
Jesus took bread
he took bread
and blessed
and he blessed the bread. Read.
and brake
And he
it
break it
and gave it to
and he
them
gave it to his disciples
and said,
and said what?
Take,
Uh-huh.
eat, this is my body.
He said, take, eat. This is my body. Read.
And he took the cup,
And he took the cup,
and when he had given thanks,
and when he had given thanks,
he gave it to them,
he gave it to his disciples.
and they all drank of it.
And they all drank of the cup. Read.
And he said unto them,
What did he say?
This is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many.
Which is shed for many. Which just took place here? Communion. The first communion just took place here. Hey, Lucas, you can read this one. Give me 1 Corinthians 10 and verse 16. 1 Corinthians 10 and 16. This is where Christianity gets it from. Real talk. Read this.
The book of 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 16.
Uh-huh.
The cup of blessing, which we bless, is it not the communion of the blood of Christ?
So that cup, that's the communion of the blood of Christ. Read.
The bread, which we break,
The bread which we break,
is it not the communion of the body of Christ?
it is the communion of the body of Christ. What we just read in Mark 14 was the first communion, yo. The first communion. Now let's go from there. Give me John 13. St. John chapter 13, and I want to start at 1.
St. John chapter 13, verse 1. And before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour was come, that he should depart out of this world unto the Father,
This is talking about right before the feast of the Passover supper, before they ate. Read.
having loved his own,
Uh-huh.
which were in the world, he loved them unto the end.
He loved them unto the end. Read.
And supper being ended,
And supper being ended. Read.
the devil, having now put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him.
So after the supper was ended, what supper? The Paschal supper. After that was ended, Satan, the devil, having now put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him. Read.
Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands,
Uh-huh.
and that he was come from God and went to God,
Read.
he riseth from supper and laid aside his garment,
He set his garment aside
and took a towel
and took a towel
and girded himself.
and girded himself. Read.
After that, he poured water into a basin
Uh-huh.
and began to wash the disciples'
He
feet
began to wash the feet of the disciples. Read.
and to wipe them with the towel wherewith he was
And
girded.
he wiped their feet with the towel wherewith he was girded. This took place the night of the Passover, yo. This took place the night of the Passover. Jump over to verse 21.
Verse 21. Then when Jesus had thus said, was
matter of fact,
troubled.
hold on, excuse me. Verse 12, actually. Verse 12. Salaki.
Verse 12. So after he had washed their feet
Now, after the Christ washed the feet of the disciples, read.
and had taken his garments and was set down again, he said unto them,
What did he say?
Know ye what I have done to you?
Do you know what I have done to you? Read.
Ye call me master
You
and
call me
Lord,
master and Lord.
and ye say, Well, for so I am.
And that's the right thing, because he is our master and our Lord. Read.
If I then, your Lord and Master, have washed your
He
feet,
said, if I, being your Lord and your master, has washed your feet, read.
ye also ought to wash one another's feet.
You should wash one another's feet, yo. Wash your brother's feet, read.
For I have given you an example.
For I have given you what?
For I have given you an example
Read.
that ye should do as I have done to you.
That you should do as I have done to you. So Christ washing the feet of the disciples, that was an example, yo. It was an example of how we are to treat one another. How we are to serve one another, yo. That's the example that Christ left when he washed the feet of his disciples. Now give me verse 21.
Verse 21. When Jesus had thus said, he was troubled in spirit and testified and said, Verily, verily, I say unto you, that one of you shall betray me.
One of you will betray me, read.
Then the disciples looked one on another,
Uh-huh.
doubting of whom he spake.
Keep going.
Now there was leaning on Jesus' bosom one of his disciples, whom Jesus loved. Simon Peter therefore beckoned to him, that he should ask who it should be of whom he spake.
Uh-huh.
He then laying on Jesus' breast,
Talk about his disciple that he loved, read.
saith unto him, Lord, who is it?
And he asked the Lord, who is it? Who's the betrayer? Read.
Jesus answered, He it is, to whom I shall give a soap,
A sop.
Salakia, when I have dipped it.
Uh-huh.
And when he...
Oh, and the word sop, I got an annotation that says, or morsel. A morsel of meat. He says, so is he it is to whom I shall give a sop when I have dipped it. Read.
And when he had dipped the
And
sop,
when he had dipped the sop,
he gave it to Judas
he
Iscariot,
gave it to Judas Iscariot.
the son of Simon.
Uh-huh.
And after the sop, Satan entered into him.
Satan entered right into Judas Iscariot.
Then said Jesus unto him, Thou doest, do quickly.
He said, that what you're about to do, go do it. Do it quickly. This is the same night Judas betrayed the Lord, Joe. Keep going.
Now no man at the table knew what intent he spake this unto him. For some of them thought, because Judas had the bag, that Jesus had said unto him, Buy those things that we have need of against the feast.
So some thought that Christ was just sending Judas to go buy whatever necessities they needed for the feast. Read.
Yeah,
Or-
run an errand.
Yeah, running errands. Yeah. Go ahead.
Or that he should give something to the poor.
Or they thought he was going to give to the poor. Read.
He, then having received the sop, went immediately out,
Judas left immediately. Read.
and it was night.
It was night. It was still the night of the 14th. It was still the night of the 14th. Read.
Therefore, when he was gone out, Jesus said, Now is the Son of Man glorified,
Uh-huh.
and God is glorified in him.
Read.
And God be glorified in him. God shall also be glorified in himself, and shall straightway glorify him.
Keep going.
Little children, yet a little while I am with you.
Uh-huh.
Ye shall seek
You
me.
going to seek me?
And as I said unto the Jews, whither I go, ye cannot come.
Jump. Oh, go ahead.
So now I say unto you.
Jump down to 36.
Verse 36. Simon Peter said unto him, Lord, whither goest thou? Jesus answered him, Whither I go, thou canst not follow me now.
He told Peter, he said, where I'm going, you don't follow me right now. You're not going to follow me right now. Read.
But thou shalt follow me afterwards.
But you will follow me later. You will follow me later. Read.
Peter said unto him, Lord, why cannot I follow thee now?
Uh-huh.
I will lay down my life for thy sake.
So Peter started talking heavy. Peter said, I'll lay down my life for you, Lord. Read.
Jesus answered him, Wilt thou lay down thy life for my sake?
You want to die for me? Read.
Verily, verily, I say unto thee, the cock shall not crow till thou hast denied me thrice.
So thou hast denied me 3 times, yo. He said the cock will not crow until you have denied me 3 times. We straight? All right, give me Luke 22 and 31. Luke 22 and 31.
The book of Luke, chapter 22, and verse 31. So likewise he, when he see these things come to pass.
That's Luke 22 and 31.
The book of Luke, chapter 22, verse 31. Salakia. And the Lord said, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan hath desired to have you,
This is talking about Simon Peter. He said, Simon, Satan has desired to have you. Read.
that he may sift you as
That he may
wheat.
sift you as wheat. Read.
But I have prayed for thee, that thy faith fail not. And when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren.
Keep going.
And he said unto him, Lord, I am ready to go with thee, both into prison and into death.
Simon talking heavy. He said, I'm willing to go with you wherever. Prison, death, don't matter. I'm ready to go with you.
To the grave we go.
To the grave or the cage. Read.
And he said, I tell thee, Peter, the cock shall not crow this day, before that thou shalt thrice deny that thou knowest me.
Damn. He said it again. He said the cock is not going to crow 3 times before you deny that you know me. Read.
Verse 35. And he said unto them, when I sent you without purse and scrip and shoes, lack ye anything? And they said, nothing.
They said nothing. Read.
Then said he unto them,
Then he said what?
but now he that hath a purse, let him take
He
it.
said, but now if you got a purse, you got some money, take it what you read.
And likewise his scrip.
You got your script, take it what you read.
And he that hath no
And
sword,
if you don't have a sword, read.
let him sell his garment
Sell your garment
and buy one.
and buy you a sword, buy you a weapon. Read.
For I say unto you, that this that is written must yet be accomplished in me.
Uh-huh.
And he was reckoned among the transgressions.
The transgressor.
Transgressors, Salakia. For the things concerning me have an end.
He said, for the things concerning me have an end. He said he was reckoned among the transgressors. Give me that in Isaiah 53. Isaiah 53 and 12 real quick.
You go Isaiah 53 and verse 12. Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great,
Uh-huh.
and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he hath poured out his soul unto death,
Here we go.
and he was numbered with the transgressors.
And he was numbered with the transgressors. Christ fulfilled this right here. He was numbered with the transgressors. Read.
And he bare the sin of many, and made intercession with the transgressors.
All right, Luke 22:37.
The book of Luke, chapter 22, and verse 37. For I say unto you, that this that is written must yet be accomplished in me. And he was reckoned among the transgressors.
We just read that, Isaiah 53 and 12.
For the things concerning me have an end.
Keep going.
Verse 38. But they said, Lord, behold, here are 2 swords.
Uh-huh.
And he said unto them, it is enough.
So they found 2 swords. The Lord said, that's enough. Take them. Read.
And he came out and went as he was wont.
As he was wont, meaning accustomed, or routinely, or regularly did. This is something he regularly, routinely did. Read that again.
And he came out and went as he was wont
Uh-huh.
to the Mount of Olives. And his disciples also followed him.
Read.
And when he was at the place, he said unto them, pray that ye enter not into temptation.
Pray that ye enter not into temptation. When he was at the place is Gethsemane. The Garden of Gethsemane. But give me the book of John chapter 18 and 1 verse. St. John chapter 18 verse 1.
St. John chapter 18 verse 1. When Jesus had spoken these words, he went forth with his disciples.
When Jesus had spoken these words, he went forth with his disciples. This is after the Passover meal. After they left the room where they kept the feast. Read it again.
When Jesus had spoken these words, he went forth with his disciples over the brook Cedron, where was a garden, into the which he entered, and his disciples.
And he entered into that garden with his disciples. Read.
And Judas also.
And Judas Iscariot, the betrayer, read.
Which betrayed him, knew the place.
He knew that place that Christ or custom or routinely or regularly visited. He knew that place. Read.
For Jesus oftentimes restored thither with his disciples.
Because Jesus oftentimes resorted there with his disciples. That place is the Garden of Gethsemane. The Garden of Gethsemane. Hey, give me my 4th folder. Give me folder number 4 real quick. Before we move on. Let me know when we good. Scroll up. Alright. See Kidron.
Yeah.
The brook. Scroll down. Alright, read the underline.
It was close to Jerusalem, between the city and the Mount of Olives.
So that's what Kidron was. It was close to Jerusalem. Between the city and the Mount of Olives. Go over. Read that.
Gethsemane, situated across the brook Kedron, John 18:1.
So Gethsemane was right across the brook Kidron. Kidron, go over.
Gethsemane.
Enlarge it. Or is that as large as it get? Bring it up a little bit more. That's good. Now scroll down.
Gethsemane. The place was one to which Jesus customarily resorted, Salakia, and that it was on the Mount of Olives.
So Gethsemane was on the Mount of Olives. It was on the Mount of Olives, right?
That it,
No, just the highlights.
oh, okay, Salakia. It was a garden across the Kidron Valley from Jerusalem.
So, I just wanted to show you that the Mount of Olives, Gethsemane, Cedron, all same area, same general locale. That was it?
Yes, that was
Let's go back now. Give me the book of Matthew, chapter 26. And I want verse 30, 26 and 30.
Book of Matthew chapter 26 and verse 30. And when they had sung and hymn, they went out.
When they sung a hymn.
When they sung a hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives.
So when they sung a hymn or a psalm, they went out into the Mount of Olives. Read.
Then saith Jesus unto them, all ye shall be offended because of me this night.
Read.
For it is written,
I
will smite the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad.
Get that real quick. Zechariah 13:7. He said, it is written, I will smite the shepherd, the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad. Read this.
Book of Zechariah, chapter 13, verse 7. Awake, O sword, against my shepherd.
The sword is the wicked. The shepherd is the Lord. Read.
And against the man that is my fellow.
That's the Lord. Read.
Saith the Lord of hosts. Smite the shepherd.
Against the man that is my fellow. That's talking about his disciples, those that believe him. Do what?
Smite the shepherd.
Smite the shepherd.
And the sheep shall be scattered.
And the sheep shall be scattered. This was fulfilled in the Christ show. This was fulfilled with the Christ. Is that it?
No.
Finish the verse.
And I will turn my hand upon the little ones.
All praises. Go back to the book of Matthew 26 and 31 again.
Book of Matthew chapter 26 verse 31. Then saith Jesus unto them, all ye shall be offended because of me this night. For it is written.
For it is written in the book of Zechariah.
I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep of my flock, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad.
The sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad. Read.
Verse 32. But after I am risen again, I will go before you into Galilee.
But the Lord said after he is risen again, he'll go before his disciples into Galilee. Read.
Verse 33. Peter answered and said unto him, though all men shall be offended because of thee, yet will I never be offended.
He said, I will never be offended. Read.
Jesus said unto him, verily I say unto thee, that this night before the cock crow thou shalt deny me thrice.
He said it to him again. Again, he said it to him in the place where they kept the feast, in that room. And now they're outside of the feast in the Mount of Olives. He's saying it again. Straight up, keep going.
Verse 35. Peter said unto him, though I should die
though I should die with thee, Lord, read.
Yet will I not deny thee.
I'm not going to deny you, read.
Likewise also said all the disciples.
Even though he kind of denied him right there, because the Lord said you're going to do it, and he's like, I'm not. You know what I mean? But that's a whole other story. Keep going.
Verse 36. Then cometh Jesus with them unto a place called Gethsemane, and saith unto the disciples, sit ye here, while I go and pray yonder.
Read.
And he took with him Peter and 2 sons of Zebedee.
So he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee. The 2 sons of Zebedee. That's talking about James and John. Yo, give me that real quick. Luke 5 and 10. Luke chapter 5 and 10 real quick. Just to show the James and John are the sons of Zebedee.
The book of Luke chapter 5 and verse 10. And so was also James and John, the sons of Zebedee, which were partners in sight with Simon. And Jesus said unto Simon, fear not, from henceforth thou shalt catch men.
Let's go back to the book of Matthew chapter 26. Let's read 37 again.
The book of Matthew chapter 26 and verse 37. And he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee,
James and John, read.
and began to be sorrowful and very heavy.
Keep going.
And then saith he unto them, my soul is exceeding sorrowful, even unto death.
Even unto death, read.
Tarry ye here.
Wait here.
And watch with me.
And watch with me, read.
And he went a little farther.
He went a little farther into the garden, read.
And fell onto his face, and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt.
Keep going.
And he cometh unto the disciples, and findeth them asleep, and saith unto Peter, What? Could ye not watch with me 1 hour?
Couldn't stay up and watch with me for 1 hour? Read.
Watch and pray.
Watch and pray.
They enter not into temptation.
That you enter not into temptation.
The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak.
But the flesh is weak. Read.
He went away again the second time and prayed, saying, O my Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, except I drink it, thy will be done.
Read.
And he came and found them asleep again.
He came and found them asleep again. His disciples folded again. Read.
For their eyes were heavy.
And
he left them and went away again and prayed the third time, saying the same words.
And he prayed the third time, saying the same words. And when he prayed this time, this is when the angel came to him in the Garden of Gethsemane. This is when the angel came to him. Give me that real quick in Luke 22 and 39. Luke 22 and 39.
Book of Luke, chapter 22, and verse 39. And he came out and went as he was wont.
As he was accustomed to. Read.
To the Mount of Olives. His disciples also followed him.
Read.
And when he was at the place, he said unto them, Pray that ye enter not into temptation.
Pray that you enter not into temptation. Read.
And he was withdrawn from them about a stone's cast, and kneeled down and prayed, saying, Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done.
Remember, he said the same thing over and over again. So he kept praying the same thing. Read.
And there appeared an angel unto him from heaven.
This is when the angel appeared unto him from heaven. Read.
Strengthening himself.
And strengthened him, not himself. And strengthened him. The angel came down from the heaven to strengthen the Christ, Joe, for what he was about to go through. Read.
And being in an agony, he prayed more earnestly.
But he kept praying. Read.
And his sweat was as it were great drops of blood falling down to the ground.
And his sweat was like blood falling to the ground. Read.
And when he rose up from prayer, he was come to his disciples. He found them sleeping for sorrow.
Again. Read.
And said unto them, Why sleep ye? Rise and pray, lest ye enter into temptation.
Get up and pray. Read.
And while he yet spake, behold, a multitude. And he that was called Judas, one of the 12, went before them.
Went before the multitude. Read.
And drew near unto Jesus to kiss him.
And he drew near unto Jesus to kiss him. Read.
But Jesus said unto him, Judas, betrayest thou the Son of Man with a kiss?
Keep going.
When they which were about him saw what would follow, they said unto him, Lord, shall we smite with the sword?
Shall we kill them? Read.
And one of them smote the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear.
The one that smote the servant of the high priest and cut off his ear is Peter, yo. He's the one who cut off the servant's ear. And this servant, this is a man named Malchus. And he was a relative to the high priest Caiaphas. He was related to the high priest Caiaphas. They were kin. They were family. Read that again.
Verse 50. And one of them smote the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. And Jesus answered and said, Suffer ye thus far. And he touched his ear and healed him.
And he touched his ear and healed him. Let's go back to Matthew. Matthew chapter 26. Let's read 44 again and read down.
The book of Matthew chapter 26 and verse 44. And he left them and went away again and prayed the third time, saying the same words.
Saying the same words. So he left and prayed the third time, saying the same words that he said the first time and the second time. Keep going.
Then cometh he to his disciples and saith unto them, Sleep on now and take your rest. Behold, the hour is at hand.
The hour is at hand.
And the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners.
Read.
Rise, let us be going. Behold, he is at hand that doth betray me.
Read.
And while he yet spake,
And while he was speaking,
lo, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a great multitude with swords and staffs.
they had swords and staffs. Read.
From the chief priests and elders of the people.
From the chief priest and the elders of the people. Read.
Now he that betrayed him gave them a sign, saying,
What did he say?
Whomsoever I shall kiss, that same is he.
That's the Lord. That's the Christ. Read.
Hold him fast.
Hold him fast. Read.
And forthwith he came to Jesus and said, Hail, Master, and kissed him. And Jesus said unto him, Friend, wherefore art thou come? Then came they and laid hands on Jesus and took him.
Damn.
And behold, one of them which were with Jesus stretched out his hand
Talking about Peter.
and drew a sword and struck a servant on the high priest and smote off his ear.
Hey, give me that in John 18 to show that this is Peter real quick. Go to John 18, start at 3. Read down.
Book of St. John, chapter 18, and verse 3. Judas then, having received a band of men and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees.
So the multitude that came to arrest Jesus with swords and staffs in their hands, those were officers, yo. Those were officers. And it says a band of men and officers. Keep reading.
coming thither with lanterns and torches and weapons.
So they had lanterns, torches, and weapons. Swords and staffs. Read.
Jesus therefore, knowing all things that should come upon him, went forth and said unto them, whom seek ye?
Who you looking for? Read.
Then answered him, Jesus of Nazareth.
Uh-huh.
Jesus saith unto them, I am he.
Christ said, that's me. Read.
And Judas also, which betrayed him, stood with them. As soon then as he had said unto them, I am he, they went backward and fell to the ground.
Power. Power. The Lord forced all of them down to the ground and didn't have to put a hand on them. Power, yo. Read.
Then asked he them again, whom seek ye? And they said, Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus answered, I have told you that I am he. If therefore ye seek me, let these go their way.
Let them go their way. Read.
That the saying might be fulfilled, which he spake of them which thou givest me, have I lost none.
Yeah, that the saying may be fulfilled that Christ spoke. He fulfilled the saying that he spoke in chapter 17. Get that, 17 and 12.
The book of St. John, chapter 17 and verse 12.
Uh-huh.
While I was with them in the world, I kept them in thy name. Those that thou givest me, I have kept, and none of them is
He
lost.
said none of them is lost. Read.
But the son of perdition,
But the son of perdition, which is Judas Iscariot here. Read.
that the scripture might be
That
fulfilled.
the scripture might be fulfilled. Let's go back to chapter 18 and let's read verse 9 again.
The book of St. John, chapter 18, verse 9. That the saying might be fulfilled, which he spake of them, which thou gavest me, have I lost none.
Uh-huh.
Then Simon Peter.
Oh, that fulfilled that saying right there. When Christ forced them to leave the disciples alone. That fulfilled his saying in John 17. Read.
Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it,
He drew it.
and smote the high priest's servant,
See, it was Simon Peter who smote the high priest's servant. Read.
and cut off his right ear.
And cut off his right ear. Read.
The servant's name was Malchus.
And the servant's name was Malchus. And this man was related to Caiaphas, the high priest. Jump over to verse 26.
Verse 26. One of the servants of the high priest, being his kinsman, whose ear Peter cut off,
Oh, read it
said,
one more time.
one of the servants of the high priest,
One of the servants of the high priest,
being his kinsman,
being his family, yo. That was his fam. Read.
whose ear Peter cut off.
That was the man that that's the one who Peter cut the ear off of. That servant, Malchus, was related to Caiaphas, the high priest. Read.
Saith, did not I see thee in the garden with him?
Didn't I see you in the garden? Didn't I see you in the garden? Matter of fact, hey, read down. Let's see what Peter did.
Verse 27. Peter then denied again, and immediately the cock crew.
That was the third time that Peter denied the Lord. The third time that Peter denied the Lord. Right there. Right there. Let's go back to the book of Matthew 26. I want 51.
But Matthew chapter 26, verse 51. And behold, one of them which were with Jesus stretched out his hand, and drew a sword, and struck a servant of the high priest, and smote off his ear. Then said Jesus unto him, put up again thy sword into his place. For all they that take the sword
For all that live by the sword,
shall perish with the
you're
sword.
going to die by the sword. Read.
Thinkest thou that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of angels?
Damn. Read.
But how then shall the scripture be fulfilled, that thus it must be?
It must be. This must happen. Read.
In that same hour said Jesus to the multitudes, are ye come out as against a thief with swords and staffs for to take me? I sat daily with you teaching in the temple, and ye laid no hold on me. But all this was done, that the scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then all the disciples forsook him and fled.
Then all the disciples forsook him and fled. Smite the shepherd, and the sheep will scatter abroad. Read.
Verse 57. And they that had laid hold on Jesus led him away to Caiaphas, the high priest, when the scribes and the elders were assembled.
So they led him away to Caiaphas, the high priest. Before they led him away to Caiaphas, though, they led him to Ananias. Give me that real quick. It's John 18. Let me get that one. St. John chapter 18, and I want verse 12 and 13.
Book of St. John chapter 18 and verse 12. Then the band of the captain and officers of the Jews took Jesus and bound him.
Arrested him, handcuffed him, read.
And led him away to Ananias first.
To Annas first, read.
For he was father-in-law to Caiaphas, which was the high priest the same year.
So they led Christ away to Annas first. Annas first. And then from Annas, they took him to Caiaphas. They took him to Caiaphas. Where's it at? Where it talks about he took him to Caiaphas real quick. Verse 15.
Verse 15. And Simon Peter followed Jesus, and so did another disciple.
Matter of fact, read 14 on down.
Verse 14. Now Caiaphas was he which gave counsel to the Jews, that it was expedient that one man should die for the people.
That's in John 11, read.
And Simon Peter followed Jesus, and so did another disciple. That disciple was known unto the high priest, and went in with Jesus into the palace of the high priest.
Into the palace of the high priest. Talking about Caiaphas. Let's go back to the book of Matthew 26. Matthew 26, and where do we leave off at?
Who's in verse 57?
Read 57 again.
The book of Matthew chapter 26, verse 57. And they that had laid hold on Jesus led him away to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were assembled.
Read.
But Peter followed him afar off unto the high priest's palace, and went in and sat with the servants to see the end.
He went in to the palace, yo. Sat with the servants to see what would happen to the Christ. Read.
Now the chief priests and the elders and all the councils,
All the council called the Sanhedrin, read.
sought false witness against Jesus,
Yep.
to put him to death,
Uh-huh.
but found none.
But found none. All those false witnesses were horrible witnesses, read.
Yea, though many false witnesses came, yet found they none. At the last came two false witnesses. One said, this fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days.
I am able to destroy the temple of God and build it in 3 days. Read.
And the high priest arose and said unto him, answerest thou nothing?
You're not going to say anything?
What is it which these witness against thee?
Read.
But Jesus held his peace. And the high priest answered and said unto him, I adjure thee by the living God, that thou tell us whether thou be the Christ, the Son of God.
Read.
And Jesus saith unto him, thou hast said, nevertheless I say unto you, hereafter shall ye see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power, coming in the clouds of heaven.
Keep on.
Verse 65. Then the high priest rent his clothes, saying,
Saying what?
he has spoken blasphemy. What further need have we of witnesses? Behold, now ye have heard his blasphemy. What think ye? They answered and said, he is guilty of death.
They said, put him to death. He's guilty of death. Read.
Then did they spit in his face.
So they started to spit in his face. Read.
And buffeted
And
him.
began to punch on him. Read.
And others smote him with the palms of their hands.
And others slapped him with the palm of their hands. Read.
saying,
Saying what?
prophesy unto
Saying
us,
that Christ, prophesy unto us. Read.
thou Christ,
Thou Christ.
who is he that smote thee?
Who hit you? Who was punching on you? Who slapped you? Prophesy and tell us,
They
Christ.
spit on you.
Who spit on you? Tell us who did it. Read.
Now Peter sat without in the palace, and a damsel came unto him, saying,
Saying what?
thou also was with Jesus of Galilee.
So a woman came to Peter and said, hey, you was with Jesus of Galilee, wasn't you? Read.
But he denied before them all,
And he denied it. He said, hell no. No, I wasn't. Read.
saying, I know not what thou sayest.
I don't even know what you're saying. I don't get it. I'm confused. What do you mean? Read.
And when he was gone out into the porch,
And then when he finally went out onto the porch,
another maid saw him,
another woman saw him. Read.
and said unto them
What'd she say?
that were there, this fellow was also with Jesus of
She
Nazareth.
started to tell the people that were around Peter, she said, this guy was also with Jesus of Nazareth. This is one of his disciples right here. Read.
And again he denied with an oath, I do not know the man.
Then he again denied. He denied Christ and said, I don't know him. I don't know that man. Read.
And after a while came unto him they that stood by, and said to Peter, surely thou also art one of them, for thy speech bewrayeth thee.
Read.
Then began he to curse
He began to curse
and to swear,
and to swear.
saying,
Saying what?
I know not the man.
He began cursing and swearing he doesn't know that man. Read.
And immediately the cock crew.
And immediately the cock crew. Read.
And Peter remembered the words of Jesus, which said to him, Before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice.
Thou shalt deny me 3 times. Read.
And he went out and wept
And
bitterly.
he left and wept bitterly. Peter went out weeping bitterly. 27:1.
The book of Matthew, chapter 27, verse 1.
Uh-huh.
When the morning was come, all the chief priests and elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death.
Read.
And when they had bound him, they led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate, the governor.
They delivered Christ to Pontius Pilate, the governor. Why? Because they didn't have power to kill anybody. They didn't have power to put anybody to death. Where's that at? I ain't put that in my class. Where's Rome? John 18. Let's find that. St. John chapter 18. And somebody help me out. We didn't have power to put our own people to death. Get that from me.
28 on down?
Huh?
Want to start 28 on down?
Is that it? Oh, that's not it.
All right.
Oh, verse 31. That's it.
The book of John, chapter 18 and verse 31. Then said Pilate unto them, Take ye him and judge him according to your law.
This was Pilate talking to the Jews. He said, take Christ and judge him according to your own law. Read.
The Jews therefore said unto him,
What they say.
It is not lawful for us to put any man to death.
This is why they had to go to Pilate. This is why they had to go to Rome. Because the Jews could not execute capital punishment. We didn't have the power to execute capital punishment. All capital punishment had to be executed by Rome. By Rome. So they went to Pontius Pilate. Let's go back to Matthew 27. Let's read 2 again.
Look at Matthew chapter 27, verse 2. And when they had bound him, they led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate, the governor.
Go to verse 11.
Verse 11. And Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, saying, Art thou the king of the Jews? And Jesus said unto him, Thou sayest. And when he was accused of the chief priests and elders, he answered nothing.
Christ answered nothing. Read.
Then said Pilate unto him, Hearest thou not how many things they witness against thee?
Don't you hear about the things they're saying about you? Read.
And he answered him, To never a word.
And he still didn't answer a word. Read.
And so much that the governor marveled greatly.
So the governor, Pilate, he marveled at Christ greatly. Read.
Now at that feast the governor was wont to release unto the people a prisoner whom they would.
So at the feast, Pilate would customarily release a prisoner. Whatever prisoner the people picked, he would do this every year. He would release at least one prisoner. Read.
And they had then a notable prisoner called Barabbas.
And they had a notable prisoner there called Barabbas. Read.
Therefore, when they were gathered together, Pilate said unto them, Whom will ye that I release unto you? Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?
He said, who do you want me to release? Barabbas or Jesus, whom is called the Christ? Remember, Barabbas was a notable prisoner. He was a robber. He was an insurrectionist. He was a murderer. Yo. That's what the Bible says about Barabbas. Get that real quick. John 18:14 about him being a robber. Is it not 40? 40.
Okay. St. John 18, verse 40. Then cried they all again, saying,
Saying what?
Not this man,
Not the Christ.
but Barabbas.
Give us Barabbas. Read.
Now Barabbas was a robber.
Barabbas was a robber, yo. He was a robber. Give me Mark chapter 15 and verse 7. Not only was he a robber, but he was an insurrectionist and a murderer. He led an insurrection against Rome. And during the insurrection, somebody was murdered. Give me chapter 15 and 7.
The book of Mark 15, verse 7. And there was one named Barabbas, which lay bound with them that had made insurrection with him, who had committed murder in the insurrection.
Who had committed murder in the insurrection. So Barabbas was a robber, an insurrectionist, and a murderer. He led an insurrection, a revolt against Rome. And during that insurrection, that revolt, somebody was murdered. That's why he ended up in prison. That's why he ended up in prison. Let's go back to Matthew chapter 27. And let's read verse 17 again.
Matthew 27, verse 17. Therefore, when they were gathered together, Pilate said unto them, Whom will ye that I release unto you? Barabbas or Jesus, which is called Christ?
Read.
For he knew that for envy they had delivered him.
The Edomite, Pilate, he understood that the chief priests, The Pharisees, the scribes, the elders, they delivered him to be put to death out of envy. It was their envy that led them to deliver the Christ to be put to death. Read.
When he was set down on the judgment seat, his wife sent unto him, saying, Have thou nothing to do with that just man?
Have nothing to do with that just man. Read.
For I have suffered many things this day, in a dream because of him.
Read.
But the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitude that they should ask Barabbas and destroy Jesus.
So the chief priests, So the chief priests and the elders persuaded the multitude of the people
To call for the release of Barabbas and demand for the death of Jesus the Christ. Read.
The governor answered and said unto them, Whether of the twain will ye that I release unto you? They say, Barabbas.
The multitude screamed for Barabbas. Read.
Pilate saith unto them, What shall I do then with Jesus, which is called Christ? They all say unto him, Let him be crucified.
Damn.
And the governor said, Why? What evil hath he done? But they cried out the more, saying, Let him be crucified.
Let him be crucified. Kill him. Read.
When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but that rather a tumult was made,
Damn.
he took water and washed his hands before the
The
multitude,
goddamn devil washed his hands before the multitude. Read.
saying,
Saying what?
I am innocent of the blood of this just person. See ye to it.
So the blood of Jesus was not on him, but keep going.
Then answered all the people and said, His blood be on us
Contrary-wise, the people say his blood will be on us. Read.
and on our children.
And on our children. His blood is on us and our children, yo. Read.
Then released he Barabbas unto them. And when he had scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified.
And after they had beaten Jesus severely, they delivered him up to be crucified, to be killed. Read.
Verse 27. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the common hall.
The soldiers of the governor, these are Roman soldiers. Roman soldiers. Read it again.
Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the common hall and gathered unto him the whole band of soldiers.
They brought the whole band of soldiers to Christ. Read.
And they stripped
And
him
they stripped him of his raiment,
and put on him a scarlet robe.
and they put on him a red colored robe. Read.
And when they had planted a crown of thorns,
And they planted a crown of thorns. Read.
they put it upon his head.
And they put it upon his head. I said planted, platted. They planted a crown of thorns. They put it upon his head. Read.
And they put it upon his head. And a reed in his right hand.
And they put a reed in his right hand
And they bowed and kneeled before him and mocked him,
and mocked him. Read.
saying, Hail, King of the Jews. And they spit on him and took the reed and smote him on the head.
And started hitting him in the face and on the head with a reed, yo. Damn. Damn it, man. Read.
And after that, they had mocked him. They took the robe off from him and put his own raiment on him and led him away to crucify him. And as they came out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name. Him they compelled to bear his cross.
They forced him to carry Christ's cross. Read.
And when they were come unto a place called Golgotha, that is to say, a place of the skull.
That is to say, the place of a skull. The place of the skull. I believe it's also called Calvary. It's also called Calvary. Keep going.
Verse 34. They gave him vinegar to drink mingled with gall. And when he had tasted thereof, he would not drink. And they crucified him and parted his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet. They have parted my garment among them, and upon my vesture did they cast lots.
But upon my vesture did they cast lots. Where's that fulfilled? Where's that at? Psalm 22?
Yeah, 22 and 18.
Let's get that real quick. Let's get that real fast.
Book of Psalms 22 and verse 18.
Start at verse 16.
Verse 16. The dogs have compassed me.
The dogs of the wicked. Read.
The assembly of the wicked have enclosed me.
Those are the dogs. Read.
They pierced my hands and my feet.
They pierced his hands and his feet when they crucified him. When they nailed him to the cross, to the tree. Read.
Let me tell all my bones. They look and stare upon me.
They look and stare upon him. When he was crucified, the people just gathered around, just watched him. Read.
They part my garments among them and cast lots upon my vesture.
That was fulfilled under Christ. That was fulfilled with the Christ. Let's go back to Matthew 27. Matthew 27 and verse 35 again.
Book of Matthew 27 and verse 35. And they crucified him and parted his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet. They parted my garments among them And upon my vesture did they cast lots.
Read.
And sitting down, they watched him there.
And sitting down, they watched him there. In Psalm 22 and 17, it says, I may tell all my bones, they look and stare upon me. They sat down and watched him there. They looked, they stared upon him while he was up on that cross, nailed to that tree. Go ahead.
And set up over his head his accusation written, Jesus, this is Jesus, the King of the Jews.
Which would be what? Treason. Treason against Rome. That's why he was killed. He was charged and convicted of treason against Rome. Read.
Then were there 2 thieves crucified with him, one on the right hand and the other on the left.
2 thieves, 2 malefactors, 2 criminals were crucified with Christ. One on his right, one on his left. Read.
And they that passed by reviled him,
And those that passed by, they began to revile Christ. Read.
wagging their heads,
Wagging their heads like, showing disapproval, disappointment, shame. Read.
and saying, Thou that destroyest the temple and buildest it in 3 days, save thyself.
They were like, you can destroy the temple and build it in 3 days. You should be able to save yourself, right? Read.
If thou be the Son of God,
If you're the Son of God,
come down from the cross.
come up off that cross then. Come down from the cross if you are who you say you are. Read.
Likewise also the chief priests mocking him, with the scribes and elders said, He saved others.
He was able to save others, like Lazarus. Read.
Himself he cannot save.
But he can't save himself. Read.
If he be the King of Israel,
If you are the King of Israel,
let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him.
come down from the cross and we will believe you. Now we know they capping. They weren't going to believe nothing. They couldn't even believe Lazarus coming back from the dead. That wasn't
They
good
didn't
enough.
believe when we went on the cross.
I'm talking about they didn't believe nothing. But keep going.
He trusted in God. Let him deliver him now.
Disrespectful. Read.
If he will have him, for he said, I am the Son of God.
Keep going.
The thieves also, which were crucified with him, cast the same in his teeth.
Cast the same in his teeth. In his teeth. Not both of them, only one of them. Only one of them started to mock the Christ like the others did before him. Give me that real quick. Luke 23 and 39. Luke 23, 39. We're going to read on down to 44.
Book of Luke, chapter 23, verse 39.
And read down to 46.
And one of the malefactors which were hanged railed on him,
One of the malefactors, which is a criminal, one of the thieves that was hanged with him, began to rail on the Christ. Read.
saying, If thou be Christ, save thyself and us.
If you're the Christ, save yourself and save us. If you're Christ, read.
But the other answering rebuked him,
But the other answered and rebuked his bro. Read.
saying, Dost thou not fear
You
God,
don't fear God?
seeing thou art in the same condemnation?
Seeing that we are both in the same condemnation with this man, read.
And we indeed justly,
And we're in this condemnation justly. We're getting what we deserve, read.
for we receive the due reward of our deeds.
Uh-huh.
But this man
But that man right there,
have done nothing amiss.
he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. He's not a malefactor. He's not a criminal. He did not break any laws. Read.
And he said unto Jesus, Lord, remember me when thou comest into thy kingdom.
Smart man, read.
And Jesus said unto him, Verily I say unto thee, today thou shalt be with me in paradise.
Today thou shalt be with me in paradise. Read.
Verse 44. And it was about the 6th hour.
It was about the 6th hour. The 6th hour is 12 noon. It is 12 noon. It was about the 6th hour. Read.
And there was a darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour.
And there was darkness over all the earth or the land to the 9th hour. The 9th hour is 3 p.m. It's the 3 o'clock hour. Said there was darkness from the 12 o'clock hour to the 3 o'clock hour. What caused this darkness? A solar eclipse. A solar eclipse. And we know a solar eclipse can only take place when? On a dark moon, which you call a new moon. It's the only time a solar eclipse can take place. Give me that real quick in my folder. I think it's the 4th folder. Let me get that. I want to show that real fast. Is it 5?
Yeah, it's eclipse.
Go ahead. Yeah. I ain't got my other eyes on right now. I'm going to put them on when the camera turns. If the camera turns.
Funny.
Took a long time. Here we go. Read that.
Excuse me. A solar eclipse occurs when the moon passes between the sun and earth, casting the moon's shadow on earth. A solar eclipse can only happen during a new moon.
Bow. A solar eclipse can only happen during a new moon. And you know what they're talking about when they say new moon, right? Dark moon. A solar eclipse can only take place. It can only happen during a dark moon, yo. Real talk. Hey, go down, slide down. Do solar eclipses happen only at a new moon? Read that.
So the eclipses happen only at the new moon phase, when the new moon is between Earth and the sun. During a solar eclipse, the moon casts a shadow on Earth and blocks particularly blocks our view of the sun.
So on the 15th day, because Christ was crucified on the 15th day. Give me that. I didn't bring this out. I forgot. John 19:31 about the day that Christ was crucified. On the 15th day that Christ was crucified, there was a solar eclipse in the land. A solar eclipse took place on the day that Christ was crucified. When was he crucified? He was crucified on the day of unleavened bread, the first day of unleavened bread. Give me the John 19:31.
Book of St. John, chapter 19 and verse 31. The Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation that the body should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day.
He said the Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation. Preparation for what? The sheaf offering that takes place on the 16th day of the first month. Read it again.
Verse 31. The Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation that the bodies should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day.
Keep going.
For that Sabbath day was a high day.
That Sabbath day was a high day. What Sabbath day is that? The 15th day of the first month. The first day of unleavened bread, which is a Sabbath. That's the day that Christ was on the cross. Read it one more time.
Verse 31. The Jews, therefore, because it was the preparation that the bodies should not remain upon the cross on the Sabbath day. But the Sabbath day was a high day.
For that Sabbath, the day that Christ was crucified, that was a Sabbath. And it was a high day. Read.
But saw Pilate that their legs might be broken, that they might be taken away.
So let's go back to wherever we were. Where were we?
Luke 22.
Luke 22 and... Did we finish that though? Oh, read 44 one more time.
The book of Luke chapter 22 and verse... The book of Luke chapter 22 and verse 44. And being in agony, he prayed.
Luke 23 and 44, Salaki.
The book of Luke chapter 23 and verse 44. And it was about the 6th hour.
That's 12 noon.
And there was a darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour.
Until 3 o'clock, to the 3 o'clock hour. That's a solar eclipse took place. Read.
And the sun was darkened.
That's how you know a solar eclipse took place. The sun was darkened. The new moon, which is the dark moon. I said the new moon is the dark moon. Get my mind right. The dark moon, which y'all call the new moon, blocked out the sun. It was a solar eclipse. Read.
And the veil of the temple was rent in the midst.
And the veil of the temple rent. Read.
And when Jesus had cried with a loud voice, he said, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. And having said thus, he gave up the ghost.
He gave up the ghost. And jump over to verse 54. What day did he die? The same day he was crucified. Verse 54.
Verse 54. And that day was the preparation
for the sheaf offering that takes place on the 6th day. Read.
And the Sabbath drew on.
And that Sabbath day drew on. What Sabbath day is it talking about? The first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. That day drew on. That's the day he was crucified. That's the day he died. Real talk. That's the day he was crucified. That's the day he died. Give me my last folder real quick. We'll show y'all something for y'all people that are in Christianity that aren't like my brother over here, no math savants. Hey, Prince, you got to go in there and help these brothers out, bro. You ain't got no choice. You got to go in there and help these brothers out. I know what I'm talking about. So, I'll attempt to help you out this time. See, Passover, evening of the 14th right there, right? First day of unleavened bread. Read that real quick.
First day of unleavened bread. Christ crucified, died, and buried first night.
He was crucified on this day. He died and he was buried on this day. So it counts for the first night. Because his body went into the grave in the evening. So that's the first night. Remember, Christ said he would be in the earth 3 days and 3 nights. Give me that real fast. Leave it on the screen. Matthew 12. Let me get that. 3 days and 3 nights.
The book of Matthew, chapter 12 and verse 40. For as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth.
So Christ was 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. The first night began on the 15th, the night of the 15th. So the second night would be the 16th. The third night would be the 17th. Now, the first day was the 16th, which was the 16th. That was the first day, which would also be the day for the sheep offering. So that would be your first day. Friday would be your second day. Saturday, which is the Sabbath, would be your third day. This is when he resurrected. He resurrected that night. That night. So when you count it, start at 15, go to 15. That's the first night, night 1. Night 2, night 3. Now go back to the first day, 16. That's the first day, 1, 2, 3. That's 3 days and 3 nights right there. Despite what they say in Christianity. It's Good Friday. How does the math work with that? The math ain't mathing on a Good Friday. The math ain't mathing on a Good Friday. Priest, we got to do a class and knock out the math on real quick. You got to do that. We got to put Priest on that for y'all. You know what I'm talking about? Hey, let's go back to what we were.
Count to 1, 2.
Yeah, pretty much. You gotta try to take it to 10. You know what I mean? You gotta try to take it to 10. No, take it to 3. Take it to 3. Take it to 3. You know what I'm
They
talking about?
can't get past 2, man. They be off on.
Hey, where were we at? We was in Luke
24.
Luke 20.
Oh, we finished Luke 24 already, 23. So let's get Matthew 27 and 62.
Book of Matthew chapter 27 verse 62. And the next day that followed, the day of the preparation, the chief priests and Pharisees came together unto Pilate.
Hold on, matter of fact, let me see here. Let's see here. Because I know I missed something, but I ain't about to go backwards though. I said Matthew 27 and what?
And you said 52. You want to start at verse 60? You said 62. You want to start at verse 45?
Yeah, let's start up. Let's start up at 45, yeah.
The book of Matthew chapter 27 verse 45. And from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land until the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?
Why hast thou forsaken me? Jump down to 50.
Verse 50. Jesus, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost.
He died. And when he died, the Sabbath drew on. Read.
And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom.
From the top to the bottom, read.
And the earth did quake.
And there was an earthquake.
And the rocks rent.
And rocks rent, read.
And the graves were open.
And graves were open, read.
And many bodies of the saints which slept arose. And he came out of the graves after his resurrection.
And came out of the graves after his resurrection. Meaning, before he resurrected, those dead bodies, they just stayed in the graveyard. They just stayed in the graveyard. And then when he resurrected, that's when they left the graveyard. But that's a whole nother story. Keep going.
And went into the holy city and appeared unto many.
Damn, that must have been nerve-wracking. Where we at?
Verse 54 now.
Go ahead.
Now when the centurion, or the centurion, now when the centurion and they that were with him, watching Jesus, saw the earthquake, and those things that were done, they feared greatly, saying, Truly this was the Son of God. And many women were there, beholding afar off, which followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering unto him.
Ministering unto him, read.
Among which was Mary Magdalene, and Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's children.
All praises. You can stop there and go to 62.
All right. Verse 62. And the next day.
What's the next day? The next day is the 16th day, yo. The 16th day of the first month. Read it again.
Now the next day that followed, the day of the preparation.
The day that followed the day of the preparation, read.
The chief priests and Pharisees came together unto Pilate, saying, Sir, we remember that thou that deceiver said, while he was yet alive, after 3 days, I will rise again.
The evil. Yo, go ahead.
Command therefore that the sepulchre be made sure until the 3rd day, lest his disciples come by night and steal him away, and say unto the people, He is risen from the dead. So the last error shall be worse than the first.
Read.
Pilate said unto them, Ye have a watch, go your way, make it as sure as he can.
Keep going.
So they went and made the sepulchre sure, sealing the stone and setting a watch.
Keep going.
The book of Matthew 28 verse 1. At the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week.
And in the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn towards the first day of the week, yo. The first day of the week we know today as Sunday. Keep going.
Came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre. And behold, there was a great earthquake, For the angel of the Lord descended from heaven, and came and rolled back the stone from the door, and sat upon it. His countenance was like lightning, and his raiment white as snow. And for fear of him, the keepers did shake, and became as dead men.
They passed out. Read.
And the angel answered and said unto the woman, Fear not ye, for I know that ye seek Jesus, which was crucified,
Which was crucified. Read.
and is not here,
But he is not here. Read.
for he is risen,
He's risen.
as he said.
Just like he said. Read.
Come, see the place where the Lord lay.
Come see the place where the Lord lay. The Lord had already risen before they got to his sepulcher in the dawn of the morning of the first day. He was already risen. Why? Because he had risen the Sabbath, the night of the Sabbath. He rose the night of the Sabbath and dipped. Read.
And go quickly and tell his disciples that he is risen from the dead. And behold, he goeth before you unto Galilee. There shall ye see him. Lo, I have told you. And they departed quickly from the sepulchre with fear and great joy, and did run to bring his disciples word.
Read.
And as they went to tell his disciples, behold, Jesus met them, saying, All hail. And they came and held him by the feet and worshipped him.
And they worshiped the Lord. Read.
Then said Jesus unto them, Be not afraid, go tell my brethren that they go into Galilee, and there shall they see me.
Give me Isaiah 53. We almost done. We about done. Isaiah 53. I want to start at 1 and read down.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 53 and verse 1.
So we just talked about the crucifixion. We talked about Christ eating the Passover. We talked about the crucifixion. We talked about the resurrection a little bit. Give me Isaiah 53 and 1.
Isaiah chapter 53 verse 1. Who have believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed?
Read.
For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant,
Talking about the Lord. Talking about the Christ. He shall grow up before him as a tender plant. Read.
and as a roots out of a dry ground.
Christ is that root out of a dry ground. Read.
He have no form nor comeliness.
He has no form nor comeliness, meaning he wasn't no big brother. He wasn't no handsome guy. Read.
And when we shall see
And
him,
when we see him, read.
there is no beauty that we should desire him.
There was no beauty for us to desire. Read.
He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows,
Christ was a man of sorrow. Read.
and acquainted it with grief.
He was acquainted with grief.
And acquainted with grief, Salakia. And we hid as it were our faces from
We
him.
hid our faces from that man. Read.
He was despised,
He was despised,
and we esteemed him not.
and we did not esteem him as the Son of God. Read.
Surely he had borne our
He
griefs
bore our griefs.
and carried our
He
sorrows.
carried our sorrows.
Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God,
But we esteemed him as just another man that was stricken. Just another man that was smitten of God. And what?
and afflicted.
Just another man that was afflicted. Read.
But he was wounded for our transgressions.
But he was wounded for us. Our transgression. Read.
He was bruised for our
He
iniquities.
was bruised for our iniquities. Read.
The chastisement of our peace was upon him. And with his
And
stripes,
with his stripes,
we are healed.
we are healed. Read.
All we, like sheep, have gone astray.
All of us like sheep have gone astray. This is why the Bible calls us the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Because all of us like sheep have gone astray. Read.
We have turned away one to his own way. And the Lord hath laid on him the iniquity of us all.
Damn, read.
He was
He
oppressed,
was oppressed.
and he was
He
afflicted.
was afflicted.
Yet he opened not his mouth.
Yet he opened not his mouth. Insomuch that the heathen Pilate marveled at him. If y'all remember that. Read.
He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter,
Uh-huh.
and as a sheep before his shearers is dumb.
Read.
So he opened not his mouth.
So he opens not his mouth. Read.
He was taken from prison.
He was taken from prison
and from judgment.
and from judgment. Read.
And who shall declare his generation?
Keep going.
For he was cut off. He was cut off out of the land of the living.
He was killed. Read.
For the transgression of my people was he stricken.
And he was stricken for our transgressions. Read.
And he made his grave with the wicked.
He made his grave with the wicked. Remember, he was crucified beside two thieves, two malefactors. He died among criminals. Read.
And with the rich in his death.
And with the rich in his death. Remember, Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus are the ones who paid for his burial. He made his rich. He made his death with the rich. Read.
Because he had done no violence.
Because he had done no violence.
Neither was any deceit in his mouth.
A lot of people, they're going to tell you this chapter right here is about the Israelites in general. No, no, no. Israelites do violence. Israelites lie. This is talking about Christ. Christ did no violence. Christ wasn't a liar. There's no guile in his mouth. But keep going.
Verse 10. Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him.
It pleased his father to bruise him.
He hath put him to grief.
His father put him to grief.
when thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin,
His father made his soul an offering for sin.
he shall see his
He
seed.
shall see his seed.
He shall prolong his days. And the pleasure of the Lord shall prosper in his hand.
1 Peter chapter 2, last scripture. 1 Peter chapter 2, 21.
The book of 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 21. For even hereunto were ye called,
Read.
because Christ also suffered for us.
Christ also suffered for us. Christ is our Passover. His sacrifice, his suffering was for us as a people, the nation of Israel. Read.
Leaving us an
He
example,
left us an example. Read.
that ye should follow in his steps. Verse 22. Who did no sin,
He was no transgressor.
neither was guile found in his mouth.
Deceit wasn't in his mouth. Read.
Verse 23. Who, when he was reviled,
When he was reviled,
reviled not
he
again.
didn't revile again. Read.
When he suffered,
When he suffered,
he threatened not,
he didn't threaten. Read.
but committed himself to him that judgeth righteously.
Talking about to his father. He committed himself to his father. Read.
Pray.
Who his
Yep.
own self bare our sins in his own body on the tree.
Read that part again.
Who his own
Who
self
his own self, Jesus Christ. Read.
bare our
He
sins
bore our sins
in his own body
in his own body
on the tree.
when he was crucified. When he was crucified. Read.
That we, being dead to sins,
That we now being dead to sin,
should live unto
that we
righteousness,
should live to righteousness. Read.
by whose stripes ye were healed.
By his stripes we're healed. Read. Read.
You were as sheep going astray, but are now returned unto the shepherd and bishop of your souls.
Amen. And with that, man, anybody got anything they want to add? Excuse me, bro. We're gonna end this. Anything?
Nope, good.
Yep. Carl. Well, we're gonna end this thing in the way that we began this thing, and that's by giving all praises and all honor and all glory to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Right.
Through His only begotten Son, Jesus Christ.
Right.
Secondly, we're gonna give double honors to our elders again. Why? Because they counted worthy for double honors.
Facts,
So they're going to get their double honors. Lastly, finally, but never least, I want to say farewell to all my brothers and sisters out there who may have learned something or got something from this class. Shalom. Enjoy the feast. Turn up. Because I know that's what we're about to do. You did.
You did. Hey, likewise. Hopefully you got something from the class. And if you found the class, you want to find more information about us, look us up on Facebook as well as Instagram under Holy Nation of Israel. And check out our YouTube page. Straight Gate of Israel. And then if you're looking for me, you can find me on Facebook as well as Instagram, Ron Ben Israel. But on Instagram, just make sure everything lowercase with an underscore between the two names.
I'm on IG, Lithiel617, Facebook, Lithiel Ben Israel.
And like always, when it comes to the social media and our platform, feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Stay up to date with us because we drop content. Hey, and with that, say shalom, Israel.
Shalom. Shalom. Enjoy the
Happy
feast.
Passover.